Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. 41. Akatsuki's Attention, Black Zetsu's Guess. Just as Izayoi and the sisters were recording the beautiful moment. In the rain-hidden village, where the rain was pouring down, inside a steel building, a figure was communicating with a colorful thought body. Sasori, what's the matter? Leader, have you ever been to the land of rivers? Or rather, besides the other 5 paths of pain, do you have any other clones? Why do you ask? Diva Path Pain said expressionlessly. Answer me. No. Alright, I believe you. Sasori of the Red Sand nodded and said in a deep voice, Didera and I encountered a guy in the land of rivers who could summon meteorites and use the same repulsive and attractive forces as you. Hearing this, Diva Path Pain's expression finally changed slightly. Who is he? I don't know. Sasori of the Red Sand shook his head. That guy was wearing a black robe, had long white hair, and wore a pure white mask, and the mask had no eye holes, and his perception was ridiculously strong. He suddenly approached us, first summoning meteorites to shock us, and then threatening me to hand over the puppet technique and the manufacturing method of human puppets, but he didn't intend to kill us. So you suspect I did it? Diva Path Pain said lightly. I can't rule out this possibility. Sasori of the Red Sand stared at Diva Path Pain's Rinnegan, and suddenly let out a low laugh. I have only seen this kind of rule-like ability in you so far. If it wasn't you, then it means that there is another guy in this world who has the same eyes as you, or at the same level as you. It seems that this shinobi world is not as boring as I thought. After the words fell, Sasori of the Red Sand's thought body slowly shrank and disappeared. Diva Path Pain stood there for a few seconds, and then the hand wearing the ring stretched out from the sleeve. The next second, the 0 on the ring flickered with a faint light. A few minutes later, a creature that looked like a pitcher plant wearing a black trench coat, with its face and body divided into black and white, emerged from the ground. Leader, what are your orders? Black Zetsu said in a hoarse voice. Let your clones go and investigate a person. Diva Path Pain told Black and White Zetsu all the information that Sasori of the Red Sand had just provided. Nani? White Zetsu exclaimed, besides the leader, there is someone else in this world who can use Almighty Push and Almighty Pull. It cannot be ruled out that it is a secret technique that can master repulsive and attractive forces, but this possibility is very small. Diva Path Pain said his analysis, he is wearing a pure white mask without eye holes. He shouldn't be showing off his perception, but he doesn't want people to see his eyes. He approached Sasori with a clear goal, just to get his puppet technique and the manufacturing method of human puppets. If the eyes under his mask are the same as mine, then it is likely to create the 6 paths of pain. Go and investigate this person. If his eyes are really Rinnegan, then he must be found and killed before he can compete with me for control of the demonic statue of the outer path. Yes. Black and White Zetsu nodded, and then used the Mayfly technique to sink into the ground and disappear. Half an hour later, Black and White Zetsu and Obito Uchiha began to communicate in the Kamui space. A mysterious person who can use Almighty Push and Almighty Pull. Obito Uchiha stared at Black Zetsu, who represented Madara Uchiha's will, and asked, do you think it's possible that besides the Rinnegan, there are other secret techniques that can use gravity? I think Nagato's analysis makes a lot of sense, Black Zetsu said. So, a lucky guy got the Rinnegan and 6 paths technique that were born in some era in the past and inherited after the owner died. Obito Uchiha instantly understood Black Zetsu's meaning. The face under the mask couldn't be seen expressing any emotion. Black Zetsu didn't speak, but his mood was very heavy. He didn't think that anyone besides Nagato possessed the Rinnegan. After all, Black Zetsu had spent 1,000 years, overtly and covertly, bewitching Indra Otsutsuki and generations of Indra's reincarnations for the birth of the second Rinnegan. He was also very sure that Hagoromo Otsutsuki had not passed down his Rinnegan. If he had passed down the Rinnegan, then no one could have obtained the inheritance and used the Rinnegan's abilities in these 1,000 years. As long as someone used the Rinnegan's abilities, Black Zetsu wouldn't have had to wait until the generation of Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. But repulsive and attractive forces are not abilities that can be controlled by any secret technique. The moon in the sky is made by gravity. White hair, a mask without eye holes, perception so strong that it can replace eyes. Black Zetsu already had a guess in his heart. If there were no accidents, that mysterious guy came from the moon. The newest novels are first released on website. Could it be that Hamura's eyes also have such abilities? Black Zetsu thought to himself. He was born too late, and his mother was sealed when he descended. In the shinobi world of peace, Hagoromo Otsutsuki only took action when he embarked on a journey of atonement, while Hamura Otsutsuki married wives and concubines and developed his clan. Black Zetsu, who feared them, didn't dare to get too close. He only knew that after Hagoromo Otsutsuki was no longer the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, Hamura Otsutsuki took some of his clansmen and moved to the moon. In the beginning, these two lines of clansmen still kept in touch. This also let Black Zetsu know one thing, that is, somewhere in the shinobi world, there was a space channel connecting the Earth and the moon. This space channel was not created by Hagoromo Otsutsuki, but by Hamura Otsutsuki. The other party's Byakugan could also evolve, but it was not the Rinnegan. Besides creating space channels, Black Zetsu also didn't know what abilities this unknown eye technique possessed. As soon as he thought that the line on the moon was preparing to establish contact with the Earth again, and a terrifying guy who could use repulsive and attractive forces and summon meteorites had appeared, Black Zetsu couldn't help but curse in his heart. Damn Hagoromo and Hamura, it's been thousands of years, and you two unfilial sons actually have unknown backhands besides the reincarnations of Asura and Indra. Sasori's human puppets allow the puppets to retain the Kekkei Genkai and ninjutsu from when they were alive. If that guy also has the Rinnegan and wants to create the 6 paths of pain, he should go hunting for people with powerful Kekkei Genkai. After cursing his 2 elder brothers in his heart, Black Zetsu said to Obito Uchiha, "I will have white Zetsu clones pay attention to the strong individuals in the shinobi world. Once they discover the other party's whereabouts, they will immediately notify you in Nagato." Good. Obito Uchiha nodded. Apart from this, they had no other choice. After all, that mysterious person was too cautious. It was precisely because of this that they had to eliminate the other party as soon as possible. Flight, repulsive force and gravity, summoning meteorites, even without the Rinnegan, that mysterious person was a major threat. Such a dangerous existence, if it cannot be turned to one's own use, must be resolved in advance, otherwise it might become a major obstacle in the plan. Chapter 42, Hand Grip Exerciser, A Counterattack. The 3 days passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, Kurenai Yuhi's vacation for 8th Squad was over. During these 3 days, Izayoi and the Hyuga sisters had almost visited all the famous attractions in Konoha. All 3 prepared photo albums, which were already filled with a large number of photos. Looking at the smiles on the 2 girls' faces, Izayoi felt that buying this camera was the right decision. After the vacation, Izayoi began to work hard like a beast of burden, full of motivation, which surprised Kurenai Yuhi and Shino Aburame. Hinata seemed to remember something and felt a little guilty. "Izayoi-kun, here's my reward for you." After 8th Squad disbanded, Hinata handed Izayoi an envelope containing banknotes. "No need, I'm not starving yet." Izayoi pushed the envelope back, pinched Hinata's small face, and said with a smile, "When I can't afford to eat, I'll come to you, this young lady, for support." Okay. Hinata didn't shyly lower her head this time, because her attention wasn't here. Seeing Izayoi refuse, Hinata didn't insist, but prepared to use all the reward money to buy ingredients. Now Hinata realized that Izayoi had always wanted to buy a camera, but he just couldn't afford it. The reason was that her appetite was too big. Since bringing Hanabi to find Izayoi, the 2 of them had rarely gone out for picnics, and Izayoi had been the one buying the ingredients. Hinata, who lived a life of luxury, had never noticed. Now she realized that Izayoi's conditions were not comparable to her family's at all. Thinking of this, Hinata's eyes turned slightly red, and her heart was filled with emotion. She decided that she would work hard to earn money in the future to share the burden for Izayoi-kun. Izayoi didn't know what Hinata was thinking, nor did he notice Hinata's change. Because his gaze was attracted by someone at this time. The other person was not a handsome man or a beautiful woman, but an old man with dark and wrinkled skin. Next to him was a wooden box, and he was holding a bottle of wine in his hand, but he was reluctant to drink it freely, only taking a small sip each time. He sat on a long chair, as if waiting for someone, or maybe he couldn't afford to stay in a hotel. This was a person from another village that could be recognized at a glance. There were many such people from other villages entering and leaving Konoha every day. They might be locals from the Land of Fire, or they might be foreigners from other countries. Izayoi had seen countless such people from other villages since he was a child. But no one could draw his gaze quite like this old man. Seeing this old man, Izayoi's memories, long sealed in the depths of his mind and blurred to the point of being almost forgotten, gradually became clear. Although it was the first time he had met this old man, Izayoi could say his name. Tazuna, the bridge builder from the Land of Waves. The client for the 7th Squad's first C-rank mission. Important figures and famous scenes from the first chapter flashed through Izayoi's mind like slides. Izayoi-kun, what are you looking at? At this moment, Hinata's voice pulled Izayoi back to reality. He smiled and shook his head. I'm not looking at anything, I was just spacing out, thinking about something. What is it? In just over a month, the village will be holding the Chunin exams, do you think we should participate? Of course. Hinata nodded vigorously, her expression serious as she said, I want to become a Jonin as soon as possible. Oh, why? Izayoi was immediately drawn in, looking at Hinata with a curious expression. He had only wanted to change the subject. He didn't expect that Hinata, who never seemed to have any ambitions, would actually have such a goal. It's a secret. Hinata suddenly imitated Izayoi, extending her index finger and placing it in front of her mouth. Izayoi was slightly stunned. Hee. Seeing Izayoi's dazed expression, Hinata laughed happily. Oh, you've actually learned to tease people. Izayoi reacted, immediately reaching out and rubbing Hinata's small face, making a fierce expression as he said, believe it or not, I'll punish you by making you a hand grip exerciser. What's a hand grip exerciser? Hinata's voice was muffled as her small face was being rubbed. Want to know? I'll tell you when we get home. A mischievous smile appeared on Izayoi's face as he was about to pull Hinata home for some exercise. Just then, a greeting came from afar. Yo, Izayoi, Hinata, long time no see. Following the direction of the voice, a group of 1 tall and 3 short figures immediately entered Izayoi and Hinata's eyes. Silver hair, dead fish eyes, blonde fox face, cool little handsome guy, Kipow infatuated girl, it was the 7th squad. Watching Naruto Uzumaki wave and walk towards them, Izayoi also raised his hand in response, smiling, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, long time no see. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed since graduation. For Izayoi and the others, it had indeed been a long time. After all, the Ninja Academy had 3 semesters a year, and only the summer vacation was slightly longer. Are you two on a date? Sasuke Uchiha's first sentence upon approaching made Hinata's cheeks flush red. Sakura Haruno looked at Hinata with envy. They were both on the same team as the popular figures and people they liked in the class. When would her relationship with Sasuke be like Hinata and Izayoi's? Izayoi didn't answer, but instead asked, are you going on a mission? We're preparing to take on a mission. Naruto Uzumaki pointed at Kakashi Hatake, who was walking to the side while openly reading a little yellow book on the street, and said, he's Kakashi-sensei, our guiding Jonin. Kakashi Jonin. Izayoi and Hinata immediately greeted politely. Yo, hello. Seeing them talking about him, Kakashi Hatake also put down his makeout paradise, raised his hand, and greeted Izayoi and Hinata. Then, after sizing up the two, whose height and figure completely crushed Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, Kakashi Hatake could tell, even without pulling up his forehead protector, that their chakra levels absolutely surpassed Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. Thus, he looked at Izayoi and deliberately stoked the fire, this is the top student. Not bad, as expected, our class is genius and dead last can't compare. Kakashi Hatake originally thought that Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha would look displeased, but he found that the two didn't care. Even Sakura Haruno and Hinata thought that what Kakashi Hatake said made sense. Seeing this, Kakashi Hatake immediately gave Izayoi a very high evaluation in his heart. Even Sasuke Uchiha, who had already awakened the Sharingan and evolved it to 2 Tomo, and could easily use the Phoenix Sage Fire technique and Great Dragon Fire technique, felt that losing to him was a matter of course. It seemed that this generation also had a dazzling commoner genius. Kakashi Jonin, you flatter me. Naruto and Sasuke are both very excellent ninjas, and Sakura is also a top student who is always in the top 3 in cultural courses. I just happen to be a little ahead of them in overall grades. Izayoi first smiled modestly, and then complimented, Kakashi Jonin is the copy ninja, famous in the shinobi world, the Konoha technician, who has copied thousands of ninjutsu, the 4th Hokage's personal disciple, and the legendary lightning style expert who cut off lightning. Sasuke and the others are training by your side, and in a few months, they will master a large number of ninjutsu and completely surpass me. Kakashi Hatake's dead fish eyes suddenly constricted, and he was a little sweaty. Sure enough, he immediately saw the 7th squad looking at him with wide eyes, and he felt a sense of doom in his heart. Kakashi-sensei, so you're so amazing. Naruto Uzumaki pointed at Kakashi Hatake and shouted loudly, "You're actually the 4th Hokage's disciple and you've mastered thousands of ninjutsu, but you're not willing to teach us ninjutsu. Kakashi-sensei, you're going too far." Sakura Haruno also chimed in, pointing her finger. Sasuke Uchiha didn't say anything, but the look he gave Kakashi Hatake was full of burning desire. At the same time, there was also a hint of contempt. Kakashi Hatake knew that he couldn't slack off anymore. As for Izayoi, the main culprit, he had already slipped away with Hinata. Chapter 43, Robbing the Rich to Help the Poor is myself. Night. Steam filled the bathroom. Izayoi lay in the bathtub, hands behind his head, looking at the misty ceiling. Upon closer inspection, one would notice that his blue eyes had changed from their usual appearance. The color wasn't as deep as usual, turning into a lighter sky blue, and the black pupils had also been assimilated into blue, with white light slowly flowing out from within, forming a beautiful white petal-like shape that seemed to move around him. Looking even closer, one would see that Izayoi was in a daze. Because his gaze wasn't actually on the ceiling, but rather, it penetrated the house, overlooking the entire Konoha from a godlike perspective. In Izayoi's view, Konoha at this moment, whether it was the urban area, the suburbs, or the forest, was surrounded by a circular wall about 20 meters high. If the ground were a little more concave, then looking down from above, the entire Konoha would look like a pot, with the urban area and the forest inside resembling the vegetables in the pot. Moreover, above this pot, there was a transparent cover, covering Konoha entirely. Not only the ground, but even underground had transparent walls. Whether it was people inside or outside, as soon as they touched the transparent wall, their chakra and location would be immediately captured by the sensor team. This was Konoha's sensory barrier. Even the 6 paths of pain could only choose to expose the location of one clone to force their way in. However, there was no perfect ninjutsu in this world, and the sensory barrier was no exception. The massive barrier had a gap, which was the entrance to the village. Under non-emergency and special circumstances, there would be no barrier at the village entrance, otherwise it would only increase the burden on the sensor ninjas. Even so, the barrier would disappear for a while every day. This time of disappearance was when the sensor ninjas changed shifts. Changing shifts every 6 hours, which means it disappears 4 times a day. Izayoi muttered to himself with a smile. At some point, he had already returned from the bathtub to the bed, and it was already late at night outside. After finding the flaw in the sensory barrier, Izayoi's gaze left Konoha and constantly switched perspectives along the eastern part of the Land of Fire. Soon, his gaze came to a wilderness area. There were several tents set up there, and the people inside were already fast asleep. There was a bonfire in the open space, and a young man was keeping watch. It was Sasuke Uchiha. Only traveled this little distance, plenty of time. Izayoi glanced at Tazuna one last time, and smiled, "So pitiful, let me help you out." That's right, Izayoi was preparing to participate in the Land of Waves storyline. Manufacturing puppets and chakra cores required materials, and the materials either had to be found by himself, or bought with money. After buying the camera, Izayoi had already become penniless. If he only did D-rank missions, he didn't know how long it would take to save enough money to buy materials to make puppets. Izayoi was originally troubled about how to get money, whether to do missions normally to save money, or to find some underworld forces to rob. Seeing Tazuna today suddenly reminded him of someone, and he made a decision. Kato, one of the world's leading tycoons, specializes in illegal activities. As long as he robs him, even if Izayoi retires on the spot and doesn't become a ninja, he won't have to worry about money in the future. As for puppet materials, he can have as much as he wants. Thinking of this, Izayoi couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth, preparing to rob the rich and help the poor tomorrow. The next day at noon, Izayoi took the reward he had saved from doing missions during this period and went to the ninja tool shop to buy 2 storage scrolls. Then, he created a shadow clone with a huge amount of chakra. The main body took advantage of the sensor team's rotation to sneak out of Konoha and headed straight for the Land of Waves. The Land of Waves is a very small island country. Since it is an island country, it is naturally not on the ninja continent. However, its distance from the ninja continent is only a bridge away. This small island is located in the sea at the eastern end of the Land of Fire. As long as you come to the end, you can vaguely see the outline of a small island at a glance. Izayoi, who can see any place in the Land of Fire from a distance, can naturally see this small island now. He had just left Konoha, and Izayoi had already found Kato. This is the horror of the Tenseigan. The huge Tenseigan on the moon can even monitor the entire shinobi world. Such long-range vision and perspective allow him to have an absolute information advantage no matter what he does. Konoha is located in the central area of the Land of Fire. A ninja can travel at full speed and reach the end of any area in less than a day. In the original story, in the chapter where they chased Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki and the other little strong ones arrived at the forest at the northern end from the village in less than a day. Izayoi only took 3 hours to surpass the 7th squad, who were still walking. Even the demon brothers are still waiting for them ahead. At this rate, by the time they arrive in the Land of Waves by boat, Izayoi will have already left. Before reaching the eastern end, Izayoi took off into the air, preparing to enter the Land of Waves by flying. The scene came to the sky, and Izayoi had changed his appearance, becoming the mysterious black-robed man from when he robbed Sasori of the red sand. White long hair fluttering in the wind. The pure white mask without any patterns or eye holes made his appearance look a little creepy. His flying posture was full of a powerful aura. Arriving in the skies above the Land of Waves, Izayoi wasted no words and landed directly outside Kato's residence, a luxurious villa. Then, he strode inside. At this moment, Kato was in a conversation with a man covered in bandages. "Zabuza, are your two subordinates reliable? It's been over a week, they can't even handle an old man." Kato's voice was filled with displeasure. "That old man is lucky. When the demon brothers found him, he had already hidden in Konoha. But with his poor appearance, he has no money to hire Konoha ninjas to escort him back. When he can't stay in Konoha any longer, his death will be when he comes out," Zabuza Momochi said indifferently. "If they fail, then I will personally take action." "HMPH, I hope so," Kato snorted. "Where does an ordinary person get the courage to speak to a rogue ninja with ace combat strength like that?" Just then, a voice entered the ears of Kato, Zabuza Momochi, and Haku, who was standing in a corner, seemingly blending into the shadows. Izayoi stepped in, looking at Zabuza Momochi, who was covered in bandages and sitting on a sofa with a large blade beside him, and asked curiously, "Is the brainwashing in your hidden mist village that successful? Even after defecting, you still adhere to professional ethics?" Before Zabuza Momochi could speak, a figure appeared in front of him. Haku raised his hand and condensed several senbon, his tone heavy as he said, "Zabuza-sama, be careful, this person is very strong." Zabuza Momochi stood up, picked up the executioner's blade, and the corner of his mouth under the bandages slightly curved, filled with a bloodthirsty desire as he said, "I can see that he is an unruly guy worth cutting down." Chapter 44, Do you want to experience the power of God? Who are you? Kato didn't feel like disaster was imminent at all. Instead, he noticed Izayoi's impudent words earlier, pointed at Izayoi, and shouted loudly, "What are you guys outside doing? You don't even know when outsiders come in, you're a bunch of useless trash." Izayoi touched the lower part of his mask and sighed, "It seems it's not the Hidden Mist Village's problem, but that those ninjas have been tamed by you guys and lost their bloodthirst. This makes sense. Why would a rogue ninja, who could be an ace in any of the 5 great shinobi villages, not kill a wealthy man who's rich enough to rival a country and seize his assets, but instead choose to earn money through employment?" Hearing this, Zabuza Momochi frowned slightly and subconsciously glanced at Kato, suddenly feeling that what Izayoi said made a lot of sense. What are you talking about?" And Izayoi's words also awakened Kato, reminding him that he was just an ordinary person, and those in front of him were ninjas who possessed extraordinary power, and were still rogue ninjas wanted by the great ninja villages. Thinking of this, Kato was immediately frightened and took a few steps back, then hurriedly shouted to Zabuza Momochi, "Zabuza, I'll give you 10 million ryo, quickly kill this guy. Aren't you curious how I got in?" Izayoi raised his hand towards Kato and chuckled, "It's because of this." In an instant, Kato's body floated into the air and flew towards Izayoi. Losing control of his body, Kato immediately looked panicked and shouted, "Zabuza, save me." Whoosh! Zabuza Momochi pushed by away, gathered his strength, turned around, and threw the executioner's blade. The huge executioner's blade, like a Fuma shuriken, carried the sound of cutting through the air as it spun towards Kato. Yes, the executioner's blade was aimed not at Izayoi, but at Kato. To be precise, he wanted to kill Kato and Izayoi together. "This guy is my money tree, he can't be killed by you," Izayoi said with a smile, then raised his other hand. The next second, the high-speed spinning executioner's blade suddenly stopped, as if the surrounding space had been frozen, and hovered in the air. Zabuza Momochi and Bai, who were seeing this kind of power for the first time, both had drastic changes in expression and their pupils constricted. There's a guy who calls himself God because he possesses power that no one can resist. Izayoi pinched Kato's neck with one hand, and spread out his 5 fingers with the other, his smile playful as he said, "So, do you want to experience the power of God?" Before Zabuza Momochi and Bai could react, they saw Izayoi gently utter the name of a technique, Almighty Push. Boom! The invisible repulsion seemed to distort space, robbing Zabuza Momochi and Bai of their colors, turning their bodies into black and white colors of a comic, and finally being submerged by white light. A heavy explosion erupted in the central area of the Land of Waves. Dense dust formed a mushroom cloud that rose up. Many residents were frightened by the explosion, and when they saw that the location of the mushroom cloud was Kato's residence, their faces showed a strong look of joy. Some people even put their hands together, making a gesture of prayer, hoping that something had happened to Kato, and it would be best if he died in that explosion. The mushroom cloud came quickly and went quickly. Before it had risen to its highest point, it was blown away by artificial gusts of wind. The villa had already been reduced to rubble, Izayoi holding Kato by the scruff of his neck, floating in the air. The Tenseigan under the mask merely glanced at the ruins before settling on a single spot. Immediately, Izayoi raised a hand and waved it gently. Attraction instantly moved the rubble aside, revealing Zabuza Momochi and Haku lying beneath, their bodies stained with blood, multiple fractures, and severe internal bleeding. They had both lost consciousness, but were clinging to their last breath. Shadow Clone Technique. Izayoi landed on the ground, formed a hand seal with one hand, and created a shadow clone. After instructing the shadow clone to heal Zabuza Momochi and Haku, preventing them from dying easily, Izayoi patted the face of Kato, who was completely dumbfounded and unable to speak, and asked, "Is all your money in the safe in the basement?" "Yes, yes, yes." Kato snapped back to reality, as if grasping at the last straw, nodding repeatedly, "My money is all hidden in the safe. I have money in other places too, lots and lots of money. As long as you spare my life, all my money is yours, don't kill me, please don't kill me." By the end, Kato was a sobbing mess, utterly terrified. It was no wonder he was reacting this way. In the eyes of ordinary people, ninjas were powerful figures high above. But in the eyes of feudal lords, nobles, and the wealthy, ninjas were merely useful tools. After becoming rich, Ronin, Rogue Ninja, and Missing Nin were all Kato's tools. As long as he paid, they would do anything. When he hired those Missing Nin to do things for him, if they succeeded, he achieved his goals. If they died, he saved money. Neither the Rogue Ninja nor the Missing Nin ever targeted his wealth. Both Kato and the nobles subconsciously believed that ninjas would not betray them and would adhere to their professional ethics. Even Kakuzu, a missing nin who loved money as much as life, was earning money by working and hunting targets on the black market, never once considering robbery. But he never expected someone like Izayoi, an unreasonable and unethical madman. Facing such a player for the first time, it was normal for Kato to be scared out of his wits. "You actually have other treasure troves." Izayoi's eyebrows furrowed slightly, then he poked a certain acupoint on Kato's body, knocking him unconscious. "Let's see how much money there is first." Casually tossing Kato to the shadow clone, Izayoi raised both hands, releasing attraction, causing countless pieces of rubble to float into the air. Soon, the entrance to a staircase leading to the basement came into Izayoi's view. Izayoi had already located the safe, otherwise he wouldn't have released repulsion so recklessly. However, since there was no light source inside the vault, Izayoi didn't know how much stuff was hidden inside. That's why he saved Kato. Coming down the stairs to the basement, Izayoi stood in front of a 2-meter-high vault. This was an all-metal vault with a combination lock. Izayoi didn't know the password, nor did he wake Kato to ask for it. He simply reached out and touched the door frame, and then with a loud bang, the vault door and frame instantly caved in and collapsed. Controlling repulsion, he bombarded it a few times in a row, and Izayoi dismantled the vault door. The contents of the vault were immediately revealed in front of Izayoi. Without the cover of the vault door, dazzling light shone out from inside, enveloping Izayoi like a rosy glow. Izayoi stood in front of the vault with his hands on his hips. If his pure white mask were removed, you would see that Izayoi's Tenseigan had disappeared, and his eyes only had 2 large dollar symbols. Jackpot. Chapter 45, The Strongest Trio. Inside the 2-meter-high, wide safe were all kinds of riches. There were stacks upon stacks of 10,000 yuan bills, neatly arranged gold bars, bulging bags of gemstones, and casually placed jewelry and land deeds in one of the compartments. Izayoi, in his 2 lifetimes, had never seen so much money. Is this the wealth of a top-tier tycoon? Izayoi marveled. If Kato didn't lie to me, this is just one of his treasure troves. Just how rich is this guy? Who cares? It's all mine now, hee hee. Izayoi took out the storage scroll he had prepared in advance and packed all the cash, gold bars, gemstones, jewelry, land deeds, and other items from the safe inside. Unfortunately, the safe was too large, and the storage scroll wasn't the large or extra large type, so it couldn't fit the entire safe. Thankfully, Izayoi had anticipated this and specifically bought 2 storage scrolls. After collecting all the treasures, Izayoi returned to the surface from the basement, then formed a hand seal with one hand and created a shadow clone with a massive amount of chakra. Izayoi said to the shadow clone, "I'll leave the rest to you, no problem, right?" "That's unnecessary. Do you not trust me?" The shadow clone raised its hand, using gravity to lift Kato, and left the land of waves with Kato. Watching the shadow clone leave, Izayoi, along with another shadow clone, took Zabuza Momochi and Haku and flew away from the land of waves. After returning to the ninja continent from the land of waves, Izayoi and the shadow clone each took Zabuza Momochi and Haku and used the body flicker technique to travel to the nearest black market. Izayoi, with his Tenseigen able to monitor the entire land of fire, naturally knew the location of the black market. After all, besides Konoha's Anbu and Root, only the people of the black market would live underground. As for black and white Zetsu clones, Izayoi's Tenseigen had tried to find them, but couldn't at all. If there were no accidents, it should be the effect of the Mayfly technique merging with the Earth's plants and trees. Although black and white Zetsu didn't have much combat power, they had 3 great skills: the Spore technique, the Impersonation technique, and the Mayfly technique. These 3 great skills could be called the ultimate versions of the 3-body technique, the body flicker technique, and the invisibility technique. With these 3 great skills, even Hagoromo Otsutsuki and Hamura Otsutsuki didn't discover their third brother. In less than half a day, Izayoi and the shadow clone arrived outside the nearest black market, which was a public restroom. Letting the shadow clone watch over Zabuza Momochi and Haku outside, Izayoi entered the black market alone. "Welcome, please follow me." As soon as Izayoi entered the black market through a special passage, a middle-aged man in a black suit invited him to a private room. People wearing masks are definitely those who don't want to reveal their identities. People who don't want to reveal their identities are either pretentious guys or well-known, or even famous, existences in the shinobi world. Afterward, based on his needs, one can tell which type he is. Then it's time to decide on the attitude. Izayoi, of course, didn't know what the middle-aged man was thinking. It was also his first time coming to the black market. The Tenseigen only had farsight and perspective abilities, not eavesdropping capabilities. The black market also didn't have any notices posted, so Izayoi naturally didn't know the rules here. Seeing that the middle-aged man didn't say anything and just led him to a private room, he assumed everyone was treated the same. I wonder what the guest needs. After inviting Izayoi into the private room and offering him a seat, the middle-aged man rubbed his hands together with a warm attitude, having done enough of the superficial stuff. "Do you have paper and pen? I want to buy some materials," Izayoi asked. Yes. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up, realizing it might be a big order, and he quickly got up to fetch paper and pen for Izayoi. Izayoi took the pen and wrote down all the materials he had memorized for making human puppets and chakra cores. Then he said to the middle-aged man, "Can you get these materials?" "Please wait a moment, let me take a look." The middle-aged man picked up the paper, read it carefully, and said something that made Izayoi look at him with new eyes. "These are Sand Village's puppet materials. Although some materials are different, we can still get them. What are your prices here?" Izayoi asked. The middle-aged man held up 3 fingers and said, 30% above market price. This meant that buying these materials from them would cost 30% more than the market price. "Okay, prepare 30 sets for me. How long will it take?" Izayoi nodded, not asking what the market price was, as he didn't want to expose his newbie status. Izayoi didn't want to be taken advantage of next time he came. "The guest can come to pick up the goods in 3 days, the middle-aged man said, rubbing his hands together and smiling apologetically. However, the guest needs to pay a deposit first, not much, just 200,000 ryo. 200,000 ryo, the reward for a B-rank mission. Okay, I'll come in 3 days. Izayoi's hand reached out from his wide sleeve, placing 20 10,000 ryo bills on the table, then got up and left. The middle-aged man also used the black market's power to get these materials for Izayoi. Then, in less than a day, this news was transmitted to someone's mind through special means. We've found the mysterious person. White Zetsu said with a grin, just as you thought, Black Zetsu, that person chose to buy materials for making human puppets at the black market. Puppet materials can be found on your own, but it takes a long time. Currently, the only places that can quickly get these materials are Sand Village and the black market. It's normal for him to choose the latter. Black Zetsu said in a deep voice, tell Lord Madara about this and eliminate this threat as soon as possible. Soon, Obito Uchiha and Black and White Zetsu were communicating with Diva Path Pain on the rooftop of the steel building. The mysterious person has been found. Do you want to take action personally? Has your injury not healed yet? Diva Path Pain asked tentatively. Not yet, that's not an injury that time can heal. After all, you also know that man was the one who quelled the chaos, Obito Uchiha said. It's just that Nagato hasn't met Madara Uchiha, otherwise, this sentence would be enough to determine that Obito Uchiha is a fake Madara Uchiha. After all, that Shinobi World Asura's character would never explain himself to a junior. Even without eyes, he still faced the nine-tailed beasts with a face full of arrogance. Seeing that Obito Uchiha was still so mysterious and unwilling to take action, Diva Path Pain said indifferently, then I will take action, and you will assist in the dark. Okay, but I want to bring someone with me. Itachi Uchiha. That's right, his eye technique is very useful, maybe it can have miraculous effects. Okay, when do we act? Now. After a few simple exchanges, the 6 paths of pain and Obito Uchiha acted, very decisively. Izayoi didn't see such a scene, otherwise, he would have clicked his tongue slightly. The 2 Akatsuki bosses, one in the open and one in the dark, joined forces, and there was also a filial son with no defeats assisting. This was definitely the strongest trio in the shinobi world. Using this lineup to fight him, isn't that a bit too much? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 46, Two-Handed Preparation. Time rewinds to a day ago. Izayoi had just emerged from the black market when he saw Zabuza Momochi and White, who had been bound by shadow clones, had already awakened from their unconsciousness. Impressive, you woke up so quickly. As expected of Zabuza, the demon of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, Izayoi praised. You didn't kill us. Do you intend to hand me over to my hidden mist village, or the black market? Zabuza Momochi asked weakly. Before Izayoi could speak, White said urgently, please don't hand Zabuza-sama over to the hidden mist village or the black market. I am willing to earn money for you to repay Zabuza-sama's bounty. You ninjas have such strange ways of thinking, Izayoi retorted. I already took down Kato. His treasures are definitely all mine. Do you think I'm short of your meager earnings? After saying that, Izayoi couldn't help but ask Zabuza Momochi, what's your bounty? 17 million taels, Zabuza Momochi replied. Izayoi immediately looked disgusted and said, you're an elite jonin, how come you're worth less than half of Konoha's Asuma Sarutobi? Zabuza Momochi was speechless. How could they be compared? What was the other party's status, and what was his? If he didn't have the executioner's blade, the hidden mist village might not even be willing to spend 17 million taels. I quite like you two idiots. If you hadn't adhered to your professional ethics, Kato's assets wouldn't have come cheap for me. Izayoi dispelled the shadow clone and smiled, so, do one thing for me, and I'll let you go. As long as you can let Zabuza-sama go, I am willing to do anything, White said immediately. Hearing his words, Zabuza Momochi felt a warmth in his heart, then looked at Izayoi and said, I am best at assassination. I don't need you to kill anyone. Izayoi pointed at White and asked knowingly, what's your name? Is there a bounty on your head? My name is White. I am Zabuza-sama's tool. There is no bounty on me. To prove that he wasn't lying, White endured the crushing pain all over his body, removed the mask that hadn't been destroyed by repulsion and the rubble, revealing a perfect and delicate face. Very good, I have a mission for you. Izayoi walked to White's side, took out a scroll from his body, and threw it on the ground, saying, go to Sand Village for me and buy back these materials, and I will let you and Zabuza Momochi go. After saying that, Izayoi rolled up his sleeves, revealing fair arms, and then, as if remembering something, looked down at White and asked, by the way, are you male or female? I am male, White replied. Then it's a pity for this face of yours. Izayoi put down his sleeves, lifted the hem of his robe, and stretched his calf in front of White, saying, "Take a bite, and your injuries will heal." Seeing this scene, Zabuza Momochi's eyes flashed. Physical stamina healing, are you a survivor of the Whirlpool clan? As expected of one of the culprits who destroyed Whirlpool country back then, your hidden mist village is quite knowledgeable about the Whirlpool clan's information, Izayoi said sarcastically. Hearing the conversation between the two, White also realized something, and forcefully brought his head over, gently biting Izayoi's calf, afraid of using too much force, causing the other party to get angry and kill him and Zabuza-sama. With a bite, White's eyes widened instantly. It was like suddenly soaking in a hot spring in the freezing ice field, a warm current dispelling all negative energy, surging through his body. Under the effect of this warm current, White's external and internal injuries recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even bones shattered by the repulsion, colliding with the villa and breaking, along with internal bleeding in the internal organs, were all restored as if time had flowed backward. This was the power of the Uzumaki clan's physical stamina healing. In the original story, Tsunade, whose body was broken in two, was able to regain new life with the help of physical stamina healing. In just a moment, Haku's injuries were completely healed. Izayoi rubbed his calf on Haku's clothes and then said, "The scroll lists the materials to buy. I'll give you a budget of 30 million ryo later. Buy as much as you can. Lord, I will definitely complete the task you have given me. Please also heal Zabuza Momochi." Haku made a dageza posture towards Izayoi, respectfully. "Get lost. Do you think anyone is qualified to bite me? If I didn't need you to work for me, you wouldn't even deserve this treatment." Izayoi said unhappily, "This guy won't die. If you can come back sooner, there will be time to take him for treatment. Remember, you only have 10 days. If it exceeds 10 days, I will assume you are dead." "Haku, don't worry about me." Zabuza Momochi also echoed. Yes. Soon, Haku took the money and scroll given by Izayoi and shunshin towards the land of wind. Izayoi also created another shadow clone, carried Zabuza Momochi, and left the place. "Aren't you going to wait here for Haku to come back?" Zabuza Momochi asked. "You don't seem to have told him where to meet." "No need. As long as he appears in the land of fire, he won't escape my eyes." So arrogant. Could it be that he has awakened the Uzumaki clan's Kagura mind's eye? Or is it that his intelligence network is all over the land of fire? Speaking of which, aren't the people of the Uzumaki clan all red-haired? Why is his hair white? Transformation technique, or a mixed blood? Zabuza Momochi thought to himself. Arriving at a cave more than 100 kilometers away from the black market, he threw Zabuza Momochi inside, let the shadow clone be responsible for guarding him, and Izayoi used the Tenseigan to monitor the entire land of fire, and began to wait for the result. Izayoi didn't know if Sasori of the Red Sand would tell Nagato that he had robbed him. But considering that his repulsion and attraction had been discovered, Izayoi felt that there was a high probability that Sasori of the Red Sand would tell Nagato. If this is the case, then his alias should have entered the eyes of Nagato, and even Obito Uchiha and Black Zetsu. After all, powers like repulsion and attraction are not something that everyone can possess. In the original story, there is no secret technique that can control these two abilities. This is one of the basic abilities of the ultimate dojutsu. In addition to Diva Path Pain, another person who can use repulsion and attraction has emerged in the shinobi world, and he is still wearing a pure white mask without eye holes. Izayoi doesn't know if Nagato and Obito Uchiha will be uneasy, but Izayoi knows that Black Zetsu will definitely feel uneasy. After all, he has worked hard for thousands of years to see the hope of rescuing his mother in this era. Now that an anomaly has suddenly appeared, he will definitely dig 3 feet into the ground to find Izayoi. Considering Black and White Zetsu's yin-yang release, spore technique, and impersonation technique, as well as the mayfly technique that can move at high speed underground, cut off all aura, and blend with the earth, grass, and trees, even Hagoromo Otsutsuki and Hamura Otsutsuki would not be able to discover them. Izayoi doesn't think his Tenseigan can discover them. White Zetsu's intelligence ability is the best in the shinobi world, and he may know the news that Izayoi bought human puppet materials in the black market. To avoid being set up, Izayoi had to make a second-hand preparation. This is why he spared Zabuza Momochi's life. Chapter 47. This grudge is noted, the growth of the demon. As expected, there's something fishy. Good thing I watched Cautious Hero in my previous life. In less than 2 days, Izayoi, along with his shadow clone, monitoring the land of fire, discovered something amiss. Because he saw a familiar figure. This figure, during his days in the land of rivers, he had glimpsed once with his Tenseigen in the neighboring land of rain. Remember the first website domain? It was none other than Jiraiya's disciple, the Angel of Rain Hidden Village, the White Tiger of the Akatsuki Konan. She was riding a sharp-beaked bird, entering the land of fire, heading towards a certain direction. Since Nagato's health had been deteriorating, Konan had gradually been spending less time away from Rain Hidden Village. After the Akatsuki members were all gathered, she had not carried out any missions alone, always staying in Rain Hidden Village, helping Nagato with affairs and taking care of Nagato's health. After the start of the original story, wherever Konan was, there would definitely be Nagato or Diva Path Pain. Now that Konan appeared in the land of fire, she definitely wasn't here for tourism. Izayoi had a premonition that she was likely here for him. Half a day later, Izayoi's guess was confirmed. 50 kilometers northwest of the Black Market, on a small hill, Konan leapt off the back of the Yatagarasu, her body showing a large number of cracks, and then pieces of paper detached from her body, forming two wings on her back, like an angel descending, landing in the forest below. The Yatagarasu also swooped down, landing steadily, turning into a huge cloud of white smoke. When the white smoke dissipated, a large tree made of white paper appeared. Then the tree automatically colored itself from bottom to top, and in a few blinks of an eye, it seemed to turn into a real tree, perfectly integrated with the forest. In the Tenseigen's perspective, the tree was covered in blue chakra, and a large number of tadpole-shaped runes emerged from this chakra, creating a barrier that isolated perception. Even Kagura Mind's Eye probably wouldn't be able to capture this chakra. But it couldn't stop Izayoi's Tenseigen. In Izayoi's eyes, there were 8 chakras inside the tree, namely Konan and Nagato, as well as the 6 paths of pain. Hidden in the mouth of the big bird, so that's how they move. I thought it was summoned by Konan's lip studs. Izayoi, who had watched the whole process, suddenly understood. Immediately, Izayoi couldn't help but complain. The strongest people in the current shinobi world are dispatched personally, are they thinking too highly of me? But then, Izayoi fell silent. A slit opened in the tree, and Diva Path Pain walked out. His figure floated into the air, and Diva Path Pain came to a cliff. After a while, the space next to him suddenly twisted, and a black hole the size of a fist appeared. 2 twisted figures flew out of the black hole. It was Obito Uchiha, and the filial son, Itachi Uchiha, whom Izayoi had seen a few times at the school gate when he was in the 1st grade. Looking at the lineup enacting a world-famous scene, Izayoi couldn't help but offer his sincerest greetings in his native tongue, top your lungs. The Super Cage Gatekeeper, the 6 Paths of Pain, Itachi Uchiha, who developed the Mangekyo Sharingan to its peak and had countless trump cards, and Obito Uchiha, who could use Kamui infinitely without fear of blindness. Even someone at Onoki's level, the pinnacle of the 5 Cage, would surely die if targeted by such a combination. These 3 individuals could contend against the combined forces of the 5 Cage. If they could put aside their mutual distrust, even the 5 Cage wouldn't be their match. To use such a lineup against him, what virtue or ability did he possess? At that moment, Izayoi heard the voice of a shadow clone in his ear, speaking in Mandarin. Look, there's movement at the black market too. Hearing this, Izayoi immediately shifted his gaze to the black market. He saw the middle-aged man in the suit had already been pierced through the body by a tree branch. Then, a white creature transformed into the middle-aged man. The mayfly technique, even the Tenseigen can't detect it, Izayoi said, his expression turning serious. His impersonation technique is also flawless, no wonder it's the shinobi world's strongest transformation technique, the shadow clone said. If the Tenseigen completes its 2nd awakening or final evolution and still can't see through it, then we must give the Kagura Mind's Eye the ability to perceive good and evil. Hearing this, Izayoi's face showed contemplation. His mind was already considering what other abilities in the shinobi world could expose the impersonation technique besides the Kagura Mind's Eye. Ideally, something that could also break the mayfly technique. After all, what made black and white Zetsu most fearsome wasn't the impersonation technique or spiritual possession, but the mayfly technique, which allowed them to ignore barriers and move at high speed, merging with the earth, grass, and trees. It was a technique that even 6 paths level experts couldn't detect. The thought of being watched by such eyes in the dark made Izayoi feel disgusted. But for the moment, Izayoi couldn't think of a solution. So, he temporarily put the idea aside. The Tenseigen glanced at the white Zetsu clone inside the black market and the strongest combination on the cliff. Izayoi chuckled, I originally wanted to give you a greeting gift, but on second thought, I shouldn't waste my effort. I'll just let you stand guard here for a while. This was also good news. Such blatant guarding indicated that Black Zetsu didn't know about the existence of the Tenseigan, or didn't know its abilities. This was Izayoi's advantage. How could Izayoi throw away this advantage? Fortunately, I prepared a backup plan, or else the loss would have been great this time. I'll remember this debt, and in a while, I'll return a great gift to you. Izayoi took one last look in the direction of the strongest combination, then dispelled the shadow clone and returned to the cave to take Zabuza Momochi away. Time came to 3 days later, as agreed. At dusk, Itachi Uchiha looked at the setting sun, with only the northern hemisphere visible, and couldn't help but ask Obito Uchiha, who was also watching the sunset beside him, has the target not appeared yet? You'll have to ask Zetsu to know that, Obito Uchiha said faintly. Hearing this, Black and White Zetsu, with half their bodies hidden in the ground, White Zetsu said, the things have already been delivered to the shadow clone, but that guy hasn't shown up yet, and the shadow clone is fine. Exposed. It's not impossible. Black Zetsu said, his mood even heavier. If that mysterious person is really a descendant of Hamura, it means that the purity of his Byakugan is extremely high, and it is not surprising that the range of his farsight exceeds the upper limit of the Hyuga clan. But they have kept a distance of 50 kilometers, and today they often hide in barriers and different dimensions. Can they still be exposed? This is even more outrageous than the Kagura mind's eye of the Uzumaki clan. You guys wait another day, Itachi and I will increase the distance. Diva Path Pain said lightly, then turned and left. Itachi Uchiha got up and followed closely behind. Obito Uchiha also hid in the Kamui space. Only Black and White Zetsu, using the Mayfly technique and White Zetsu shadow clone, monitored the black market while expanding the scope of investigation to see if that person was hiding nearby. Then another day passed, and the strongest combination, still not seeing anyone coming, left with different feelings. If they couldn't catch that person this time, it would be even more difficult next time. With this level of perception, they are already at a disadvantage before the battle even begins. 6 days later, in a forest in the Land of Fire, very close to the border. Lord Izayoi, this is what you wanted. It cost a total of 29,870,000 ryo. Haku, who had just returned to the Land of Fire from the Land of Rivers, unloaded the 3 large scrolls behind him and said respectfully to Izayoi. Not bad, you don't need to return the remaining money, consider it a reward for you. Izayoi used gravity to take the scroll, then soared into the sky and left. Watching his departing figure, Haku and Zabuza Momochi, worried that he would go back on his word, both breathed a sigh of relief. Lord Zabuza, where are we going next? Haku asked, supporting Zabuza Momochi, who had recovered a little and could barely stand up with a cane. To rob from the rich and give to the poor. Zabuza Momochi said in a deep voice, his eyes gleaming, as if he had opened the door to a new world. Demon Zabuza, who had a lesson from Izayoi, has grown. Chapter 48. If it doesn't work, then I can only inconvenience the shinobi world, Izayoi's anxiety. Izayoi had no idea that his actions had inspired Zabuza Momochi, leading him to find a different path as a rogue ninja. After obtaining the materials for creating human puppets and chakra cores, Izayoi did not immediately return to Konoha. During this time, every 3 days, he would create a shadow clone with a massive amount of chakra and return to the village to switch shifts with the shadow clone that was about to automatically dispel. Apart from Hinata and Hanabi, no one in the village knew that Izayoi was just a shadow clone. Having already informed the Hyuga sisters, Izayoi was not in a hurry to return to the village. Instead, he changed his identity and first met up with the shadow clone that was collecting Kato's other treasure troves to sort out the gains from this trip. The result was that Kato's assets were simply uncountable. The most valuable of Kato's assets were not banknotes, gold bars, or jewelry, but the land deeds. The land deeds that Kato could hide were naturally not trash. These land deeds were all for houses or shops in prosperous areas of various countries. Just selling a few land deeds earned Izayoi more money than several Asuma Sarutobis. After becoming thoroughly wealthy, Izayoi immediately found a villa that Kato had purchased in the Land of Fire based on the land deeds. Then, in the city where the villa was located, he bought a clothing store, leaving a shadow clone to learn from the tailors and designers inside. The main body did not return to Konoha, but instead took 2 empty large storage scrolls and left the Land of Fire, entering the Land of Rivers. Rumble. Above a certain mountain village, dark clouds were gathering, and muffled thunder was rolling. Before long, the sky began to drizzle. Even so, in a mine outside the village, villagers with bare upper bodies were still pulling carts of minerals out, and the sound of mining could be heard inside. In an open space not far from the mine, a large number of tombstones stood. Even now, several people wearing black raincoats were gathered around a coffin that had just been placed in a pit, holding a funeral for the person inside the coffin. Ah, why would someone as good as you die? It really breaks my heart, it really breaks my heart. The person leading the wailing was making exaggerated gestures, revealing genuine emotion. However, none of the surrounding people felt sad, their eyes only showed fear of the person leading. In their eyes, this clan leader was simply an unpredictable fellow. At the slightest disagreement, he would hold a funeral for someone. Raiga, there's a very strong chakra approaching this way. Just as the person leading was performing to his heart's content, a childish voice suddenly sounded from inside the raincoat that was bulging behind him, his tone sounding somewhat panicked. Be careful, that person can fly. Hearing this, Black Ho Raiga, who was still covering his face and crying, immediately lowered his hands and looked up at the sky with a solemn expression. In the rain, a black figure descended from the sky. Lightning release, lightning ball. Asterisk. Before the figure could land and speak, Black Ho Raiga pulled out his uniquely shaped twin swords, crossed them towards the sky, and chakra with lightning release nature transformation condensed at the tips to form a blue-white ball of light, which shot out violently. Looking at the lightning ball flying towards him, the figure simply stretched out his palm from his sleeve, his 5 fingers spread open. Then the lightning ball seemed to hit an invisible air wall, exploding with a bang, like fireworks blooming, countless electric arcs flashing and disappearing. Indeed, I didn't mistake you. It's you, Black Ho Raiga, and the owner of the Kekkei Genkei, Red Eye. Izayoi smiled. Since the original escaped, I'll just have you 2 bootlegs become my human puppets. I'm in a hurry, let's make this quick. Almighty pull. An invisible attraction, like an unseen giant hand, grabbed Black Ho Raiga from the ground. No hand seals, can't see anything, what kind of ninjutsu is this? Black Ho Raiga's expression changed drastically, but he wasn't slow to react, crossing his twin swords again, then pouring a large amount of chakra into the lightning blades, converting it all into lightning release nature transformation. Lightning release, lightning fang. The twin swords transformed into lightning, shooting out a series of curved lightning bolts towards Izayoi, like a continuous laser barrage. This move is Black Ho Raiga's signature technique, just like Kakashi Hataki's lightning blade. If the lightning doesn't hit, it will fly into the sky, merge with the dark clouds, and then turn into lightning strikes falling down. The move is good, the swords are also good, but that's all I can praise you for. Izayoi spread his hands, and a green barrier formed by distorted air due to power accumulation appeared. Almighty push. As Izayoi's words fell, the barrier was like a water-filled balloon, reaching its limit and suddenly bursting. The repulsion storm contained within instantly dispersed the rain, engulfing Black Ho Raiga, who had lost the pull of attraction and was falling downwards, and the Black Ho clan who were fleeing below. Boom! A deafening explosion echoed throughout the mountain village. Whether it was the people working in the mine or the residents in the village, they could all hear the explosion. The nearest mine even felt the entire cave shaking violently. Fortunately, the cave did not collapse. When the rain fell again, and the gust of wind dispersed the dust and mist, the cemetery had disappeared, replaced by a huge crater. The people of the Black Ho clan were all dead. Black Ho Raiga, who had intimate contact with the earth and endured the repulsion impact, had broken bones and severe internal bleeding. However, before being blasted to the ground, Black Ho Raiga decisively threw away the twin swords in his hand, choosing to protect Rinmara behind him, so that the latter did not die on the spot, but suffered serious injuries like him. When Izayoi descended from the sky, Black Ho Raiga's mouth was full of blood, and he said weakly, Please, spare Rinmara. Those people you killed probably said the same thing to you, right? Izayoi sneered, you're supposed to be a rogue ninja of elite Jonin level, why are you talking so childishly? After saying that, Izayoi raised his hand and used attraction to suck the twin swords over, but he did not turn them around to shoot at Black Ho Raiga and Rinmara. Instead, he smiled at Black Ho Raiga and said, help me do an experiment, and show the last bit of value before your death. Immediately, Izayoi formed a hand seal with one hand, and separated a shadow clone with a small amount of chakra. Then, both the main body and the shadow clone each held a lightning blade, channeling chakra into them and converting it into lightning release nature transformation, instantly resembling holding lightning in their hands. The main body and the shadow clone threw the lightning in their hands, piercing through the bodies of Black Ho Raiga and Renmara. However, the scene Izayoi wanted to see did not appear. Neither Black Ho Raiga nor Renmara dropped a perk. Shadow clones and killing people don't increase the drop rate. Is there really no other mechanism to increase the drop rate? Izayoi thought to himself, chakra definitely isn't the standard for measuring strength, otherwise, apart from the Jinchuriki and Naruto, no one would be able to provide me with perks. So how is strength determined? If it's perks, then from the age of 3, there are only a few people in the shinobi world who can provide me with perks. But those classmates in the class dropped perks, which means it's not based on perks. Is it based on techniques, or performance? Looking at the corpses of Black Ho Raiga and Renmara, Izayoi said softly, I'll try this method one more time. If it doesn't work, I can only be more violent and wrong the shinobi world a little. After all, I have this configuration, how can I let people with worse configurations catch up to my decades of effort in just a few years? No one could understand Izayoi's anxiety. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 49, Izayoi's Birthday. The people who invaded your village have already been killed by me. These minerals are all my spoils of war. You don't have any objections, right? No, no. Please, sir, feel free. Do you need our help? No need for help. I'm in a hurry. Goodbye. After storing the corpses of the Black Ho clan and some minerals needed to make puppets into 2 large storage scrolls, Izayoi floated into the air, sometimes flying, sometimes using body flicker technique, leaving the land of rivers as quickly as possible. The next morning, Izayoi returned to the land of fire, and then went straight to the tailor shop. He separated a shadow clone with a huge amount of chakra and handed over the scrolls containing the minerals and corpses to the shadow clone. The main body didn't rest for even a quarter of an hour. He first went to a store to buy something, and then, carrying souvenirs for Hinata and Hanabi, rushed back to Konoha at full speed. Finally, before 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Izayoi returned to Konoha. Taking advantage of the shift change, Izayoi entered Konoha from another place, and then returned to the central street from the wilderness, and soon arrived home. I'm back. Izayoi, doing as the locals do, shouted loudly while changing his shoes in the entrance hall. Then, he carried the gift box and walked towards the second floor. However, a cloth curtain was installed at the staircase at some point. Izayoi pulled open the curtain, and what came into view was the dimness of the room with the blackout curtains drawn. Only 12 candles were burning on the table in the living room, and below them was a 5-layer cake. The cake was very delicate, with 3 Q-version snowman suits on each layer, which were Izayoi and the Hyuga sisters. Older brother, happy birthday. Izayoi-kun, happy birthday. Hinata and Hanabi had been waiting for Izayoi in the living room for a long time. As for the shadow clone, it had been ruthlessly beaten to pieces by the 2 girls yesterday. Seeing Izayoi return, Hinata and Hanabi came over one after another, giving Izayoi birthday wishes while pulling Izayoi to the cake, one on the left and one on the right. That's right, today is June 16th, Izayoi's birthday. This was also the reason why Izayoi was in a hurry to come back. Since the two became a trio, Hinata and Hanabi would celebrate Izayoi's birthday every year at this time. Especially after receiving the information that the shadow clone was beaten to pieces by the 2 girls, he knew that Hinata and Hanabi wanted to prepare a surprise for him. Izayoi naturally didn't want to disappoint the 2 girls' expectations. After pressing Izayoi onto the sofa, Hanabi knelt beside the coffee table, holding her chin in her hands, and said with a smile, "Older brother, make a wish." Older brother's wish is very simple, that is, I hope Hanabi grows up quickly, every day is as colorful as a rainbow, as bright as a star, and as beautiful as her sister. Izayoi made a praying gesture with his hands, closed his eyes but said his wish. But in the end, he added in his heart, I hope everything goes well, and let us all get rid of the limitations of lifespan. After speaking, Izayoi blew out all the candles. Older brother, I love you to death, Mu-A. Hearing Izayoi's wish, Hanabi pounced directly and pecked Izayoi hard on the cheek. Izayoi rubbed Hanabi's small face with both hands and said with a smile, "You've already made your wish, so where's older brother's birthday present? My sister and I prepared it for you a long time ago." Hanabi jumped off the sofa, walked into the room with Hinata, and then the 2 of them came out holding 3 exquisitely wrapped boxes. "Older brother, open it and see." Hanabi put the gift boxes on the ground and said to Izayoi. Hinata didn't draw the blackout curtains, but turned on the living room lights. There were 3 gift boxes, 2 large and 1 small. Izayoi untied the bows, tore off the wrapping paper, and opened the small box first. Inside was a red scarf. The moment Izayoi picked up the scarf, he seemed to realize something and couldn't help but look at the two girls, saying, "Did you knit this?" As expected of older brother, you guessed it right away. Hanabi said with a giggle, then older brother, guess who knitted this scarf? You already confessed it yourself. Izayoi flicked Hanabi's forehead and said with a smile, my sister definitely had a hand in it. Since it wasn't knitted by your sister alone, it must have been knitted by the two of you together. Moo. Hanabi immediately pouted her small mouth. Hinata watched this scene with a gentle smile, not surprised that Izayoi could guess. Autumn is coming soon, and winter will be here before long. I really like this scarf. Izayoi put the scarf around his neck and continued to open the boxes. This time, he opened both large boxes at once, and they were filled with clothes. One was a heavy snowman suit, and the other was a more expensive white robe with flame patterns. Older brother, can you guess who gave these two pieces of clothing? Hanabi asked again. This one was given by Hinata. Izayoi picked up the snowman suit and smiled at Hinata. What about this one? Hanabi picked up the white robe and asked. You gave it together. Izayoi flicked Hanabi's forehead again and said with a smile, have you forgotten the flame pattern on your kimono? That's your favorite symbol. And you confessed it yourself again. Since the snowman suit was given by Hinata, then this one was either given by you, or the two of you gave it together. This isn't fun, older brother, can you read minds? Hanabi immediately started acting spoiled. I clearly wanted to win against older brother once this year. I told you, you can't fool Izayoi-kun. Hinata said with a smile. Alright, don't be angry. Izayoi picked up Hanabi and put her aside, then picked up the gift box on the ground and said with a smile, I also have souvenirs for you. Oh right, older brother, where have you been these past few days? Hanabi's attention was successfully diverted, and she asked curiously, the shadow clone said you went to do something big, what was it? You'll know in the future, I can't tell you now. Izayoi didn't want to taint his little sister-in-law's pure heart. Older brother is so annoying. Hanabi made a face, then unwrapped the gift box Izayoi had placed in her arms, and analyzed it like Izayoi, a flat, rectangular gift box, and so big, could it be clothes? You guessed it, Hanabi is amazing. Izayoi, who was winning big, immediately provided Hanabi with emotional value. Hee. Hanabi immediately smiled happily. After coaxing his little sister-in-law, Izayoi pulled Hinata to sit on his other side, put the gift box in her arms, leaned close to her ear and smiled, I really like the gift you gave me, let's relive our childhood again this winter. This is a gift for you, open it quickly. Okay. Hinata, who originally wanted to wait until Hanabi finished looking at hers before opening her own, saw Izayoi's expectant expression and immediately looked forward to Izayoi's souvenir. Quickly unwrapping the packaging, Hinata opened the gift box. Immediately, her beautiful eyes widened slightly. This is. The Hyuga sisters spoke in unison, then turned to look at Izayoi, asking, older brother Izayoi-kun, what kind of clothes are these? It's called, a sailor suit. Izayoi said with slight excitement, I made it myself, go try it on and see if it fits. Okay. The Hyuga sisters, who were originally full of doubts, heard that the clothes were made by Izayoi himself, and their beautiful eyes lit up slightly, then they got up and walked into the room together. Meanwhile, Izayoi activated his Tenseigen, not to peep, of course, but to find Hiruzen Sarutobi's location. Seeing that the other party was already off work and having dinner with his grandson Konohamaru, and not using crystal ball telepathy to snoop around, Izayoi withdrew his gaze. However, before closing his Tenseigen, Izayoi glanced in a certain direction outside the house. At the same time, Hanabi's surprised voice suddenly rang out from inside the room, causing a little cold sweat to appear on Izayoi's forehead, it fits perfectly. Sister, how did older brother know your size? Chapter 50, Grown Again. Lightning released chakra stimulation cells. A few minutes later, Hinata and Hanabi walked out of the room. Remember our domain name Taiwan novel website. Izayoi, who had already loaded the film roll into the camera and was full of anticipation, immediately brightened up and repeatedly praised, beautiful, so beautiful. If Hinata and Hanabi wearing kimonos before had an air of ancient elegance, then the current Hinata and Hanabi were full of modern purity and loveliness, making Izayoi feel as if he had returned to his previous life's urban campus life. The white sailor collared shirt, dark blue bow, and pleated skirt, along with black stockings, were the set in Hinata's gift box. At 1 meter 55, with a figure that surpassed her peers and could even make many mature women envious, Hinata, wearing this outfit, didn't look 12 years old at all, but more like a high school student with a youthful face and large breasts, making Izayoi's heart beat faster than usual. This was the image of the school beauty he had fantasized about. The little sister-in-law next to her was equally charming. The same smaller version of the white sailor collared shirt, dark blue bow, and pleated skirt, along with white stockings that contrasted with Hinata's black stockings, and waist-length hair tied into pigtails, were extremely cute. Older brother, does it look good? Hanabi came in front of Izayoi, put her hands behind her back, bent down, blinked her beautiful eyes at Izayoi, and said with a smile. Super good looking. Izayoi gave a thumbs up. Hee. I also think the clothes made by older brother are very beautiful. Hanabi turned around in front of Izayoi again, and then said with a little regret, it's a pity that these clothes are too thin, and the skirt is so short, it's not suitable to wear out and fight at all. It's okay, it can be improved in the future, after all, it's my first time making clothes. Izayoi said with a smile. Izayoi-kun, does this outfit have a jacket? At this moment, Hinata's voice came to his ears, as thin as a mosquito's hum. Standing next to Hanabi, Hinata was holding her hands in front of her chest, her cheeks flushed, her eyes darting around, and her voice trembling. This was how Hinata looked when she was shy. Seeing this, Izayoi couldn't help but wonder, Hinata, does this outfit not fit? There was no reason, this size should be just right. Could it be that Hinata had grown again? No, this outfit fits just right, it's just too revealing. Hinata said weakly, and then put down her hands. In an instant, the white sailor collared shirt showed a tightness that was no less than a black fishnet shirt, fully highlighting Hinata's assets. Cough cough, there is a jacket, but there aren't enough materials and time, so I haven't made it yet. Izayoi coughed lightly. Okay. Hinata lowered her head, her face flushed. Let's not talk about these, let's take a group photo. Izayoi quickly changed the subject, then picked up the camera, his expression excited. Soon, a picture of the three of them standing in a row, Hinata and Hanabi on either side, one hand holding Izayoi's arm, and the other hand making a scissor gesture, with bright smiles, was immediately captured. Immediately, Izayoi took back the camera from the shadow clone, punched the shadow clone to disperse it, and began to direct Hinata and Hanabi to pose, taking pictures one after another. There are photos of Hinata and Hanabi sticking together, their little hands forming a heart. There are pictures of Hinata and Hanabi standing back to back, striking a gun shooting pose at Izayoi. After several photos, at Hinata and Hanabi's request, Izayoi went to change into a snowman suit and a new white robe, and started taking pictures with the Hyuga sisters. And the photographer was not Izayoi's shadow clone, but Hinata and her shadow clone, who had been secretly learning photography techniques during this time. After a long while, the three moved to the dining room and cut the cake at the table. All kinds of scenes were once again captured by the camera. There are pictures of the three of them clinking glasses with juice, their eyes curved into crescent moons with laughter. There are pictures of the Hyuga sisters feeding Izayoi with forks, and the latter feeding the two of them as well. There is a picture of Izayoi's face being smeared with cream by Hanabi's small hand, the latter with a mischievous smile of success, and the former closing one eye with a doting smile. There is a picture of Hinata wiping cream off Izayoi's face with a handkerchief. At the beginning, the atmosphere was very warm, leaving many beautiful moments. But gradually, there is a picture of Hanabi being smeared with cream like a little tabby cat, pretending to be fierce and biting Izayoi's palm, with Hinata gently giving her a flick on the forehead with her fist. There is a picture of Hinata's small face being accidentally hit by a piece of cake, her smile not reaching her eyes, and her gaze suddenly changing from gentle to sharp. Then there is a series of screenshots of the cake fight. Finally, there is a picture of Izayoi winning a complete victory, sitting on a chair laughing with his head raised, Hinata and Hanabi looking distressed at the sailor suits they had just changed into not long ago, which were now covered in cake, with a messy restaurant in the background. On this day, Hinata and Hanabi played until after 9 p.m., took a bath at Izayoi's house, and changed back into their original clothes before going home. Prestige is still not enough. Izayoi stood on the balcony, waving goodbye to the Hyuga sisters, looking at their departing figures, and a guard standing outside, silently protecting the two girls, while also supervising them, to prevent the young ladies from not returning home at night. He whispered, "Don't worry, soon, no one will stop us." Konoha Year 60, June 23. The Naka River in the suburbs. At this time, two soft shouts rang out. Fire release. Great Dragon Fire Technique. Two huge fire dragons collided together, one on the left and one on the right, turning into a brilliant firework above the river. Under the fireworks, two boys with obvious height differences were engaged in a fierce taijutsu sparring on the water. On the river bank, there was also a Byakugan girl wearing white clothes with petal patterns, holding a camera, looking for an angle, and secretly taking handsome pictures of the taller boy. Bang! Usually, Sasuke Uchiha, who opens his two-tomo Sharingan and possesses powerful insight, can last for dozens of rounds before falling into a disadvantage due to decreased physical strength. But today, after only a few rounds, Sasuke Uchiha widened his Sharingan with spinning tomo, his handsome face deformed by a punch from Izayoi, and his whole body flew out. The power of this punch was not particularly great, and Sasuke Uchiha, whose ability to withstand hits had also been improved, was not killed by a single punch. If it were any other time, he would have already gotten up and continued his attack. But this time, Sasuke Uchiha sat on the water, staring wide-eyed at Izayoi, and asked, "What was that just now?" Lightning release. Just now, Izayoi's speed had suddenly skyrocketed, reaching a level that the Sharingan could see, but the body couldn't react to, leaving Sasuke Uchiha with absolutely no power to resist that straight punch. To be precise, it's lightning release nature transformation. Izayoi lied without batting an eye, "I'm perfecting a ninjutsu I developed myself. I had Hinata find me a scroll on how to train lightning release nature transformation, and I accidentally discovered that lightning release nature transformation chakra can stimulate cells, causing the body's speed to skyrocket." In fact, this was Izayoi's shadow clone, turning Black Ho Raiga into a human puppet, using the Tenseigan to observe Black Ho Raiga using the lightning blade, and then easily figuring out the technique based on the human body diagram. After awakening the Tenseigan, Izayoi had already mastered at least 6 types of nature transformation. His ultimate technique was being perfected. Compared to the ultimate technique, lightning release chakra stimulation cells was just a simple technique. Sasuke Uchiha, of course, didn't know any of this. His focus wasn't on lightning release nature transformation, but on the look of astonishment on his face as he said, "You even developed your own ninjutsu. Want to learn it? The ninjutsu you developed? Dream on, I'm talking about the lightning release chakra stimulation cells technique." Izayoi rolled his eyes and said, "If I hadn't seen that you've already learned to climb trees and walk on water, and that you have a lightning affinity, I wouldn't have taught you such a dangerous technique. I want to learn, teach me." Sasuke Uchiha got up and nodded, almost reaching out like a chimpanzee, not knowing what politeness was. Having no fateful entanglement with Izayoi, he had long been impressed by Izayoi's strength over the past few years. Whether it was 1 tomo or 2 tomo, he couldn't beat him. Although Naruto Uzumaki also had amazing chakra, that dead last was not on the same level as Izayoi at all. In Sasuke Uchiha's heart, Izayoi was also the first friend he acknowledged. Chapter 51, Izayoi's Guess, You Will Succeed. Time passed quickly. Before they knew it, the graduates of Konoha's 60th class had already been genin for a season. In a few months, even teams composed of civilians had transformed from rookies into qualified genin. Genin squads with excellent potential and performance, under the guidance of their jonin leaders, had already left Konoha to carry out C-rank missions, fought enemies, seen blood, and completed their transformation. As the end of June approached, the jonin who knew what major events were coming up stopped taking on missions outside the village, instead letting their subordinates continue with miscellaneous tasks. Genin squads on missions outside the village had also returned one after another. The grand event for genin was about to begin. On this day, 8th Squad was cleaning up garbage for the village as usual. At that moment, a loud hawk's cry rang out in the sky, as if it spread throughout the entire Konoha. Hearing the hawk's cry, the jonin looked up at the sky, their eyes flashing as they watched the hawk circling above the village. "After you finish your mission, go to the Hokage building to collect your reward, then disband on your own. Meet at the old place at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." Kurenai Yuhi left these words and disappeared in a flash. Like her, many other jonin also left. Streaks of afterimages flashed as they converged towards the Hokage building. "Is something big happening again?" Shino Aburame said calmly, looking at the constantly screeching hawk. "Since the alarm hasn't been sounded, it seems to be an internal matter." "It should be that some important day has arrived," Izayoi said with a smile. "Don't forget, the Chunin exams haven't been held yet this year." Hearing this, Hinata and Shino Aburame's eyes behind their sunglasses both lit up slightly. Looking at the smiling Izayoi and the expectant Hinata, Shino Aburame asked, if the Chunin exams really are coming, Izayoi, Hinata, do you plan to participate? I want to participate. Before Izayoi could answer, Hinata spoke up. Izayoi also smiled and said, if Hinata participates, I'll participate too. And we both have the strength to participate, don't we? Yeah. Shino Aburame put his hands in his pockets and nodded coolly, since you both plan to participate, then naturally I can't be missing. Then let us fight side by side and let the other genin see the strength of 8th squad. Izayoi, Hinata, and Shino Aburame looked at each other and smiled confidently. Like them, there were also veteran genin who had participated in the Chunin exams before, even many times, and had survived, just a little bit of luck away from being promoted to Chunin. June 27, 9 o'clock in the morning. 8th squad was already waiting for teacher Kurenai at the old place. A few minutes later, Kurenai Yuhi appeared before them in a body flicker technique, holding 3 documents in her hand, and smiled, sorry, I'm late. Teacher Kurenai, are these the Chunin exams application forms? Hinata asked, looking at the documents in Kurenai Yuhi's hand. Looks like you all know. Kurenai Yuhi raised the documents in her hand and smiled. That's right, these 3 are all Chunin exams application forms. The Hokage summoned all of us Jonin instructors yesterday and announced that the opening date for this year's Chunin exams is July 1st. Although you only graduated a few months ago, your performance and strength qualify you to participate in the Chunin exams, so I've already signed you up. Of course, signing up doesn't mean you have to participate. If you're not confident enough in yourselves, you can choose not to participate in the Chunin exams and just throw away this application form. If you're confident in your strength, sign this application form and submit it to the comprehensive building before 3:30 p.m. on July 1st, and arrive at the examination room on time. Handing the 3 application forms to Izayoi, who was the default leader, Kurenai Yuhi lied, discuss and consider it carefully these few days, don't force yourselves, and don't force your teammates. It's not necessary for all 3 of you to participate in the Chunin exams. After saying that, Kurenai Yuhi disappeared in a body flicker technique. Then I'll see you on the 1st. Shino, let's meet here at 3 p.m. that afternoon. Okay. Izayoi handed an application form to Shino Aburame, then waved goodbye to Hinata and him. On the way back, Izayoi handed both application forms to Hinata and said, Sasuke invited me. Do you want to train with us these few days? Hinata was a little tempted, but she still shook her head and said, no, I want to ask my father about the gentle fist these few days, so I may not have time to find you, Izayoi-kun. Don't worry, I will definitely help you become a Chunin, Izayoi said with a smile, touching Hinata's head. Izayoi already had a guess as to why the girl wanted to become a Chunin. This life's Hinata is many times more outstanding than in the original story. As the main family's young lady, she was originally the first heir. Now that the first heir is so outstanding, the clan elders of the main family must already be putting pressure on the future father-in-law, asking him to apply the caged bird seal to Hanabi. Hinata is in such a hurry to be promoted to Chunin, probably because she wants to become a Jonin faster, and then resist the pressure with the future father-in-law, so that Hanabi won't have the caged bird seal applied. Thinking of this, a cold glint flashed in Izayoi's eyes. If that's the case, then after the Chunin exams are over, it will be necessary to visit the Hyuga clan. Little did he know that Hinata was in such a hurry to be promoted just to be with him legitimately. Izayoi, are you planning to participate in the Chunin exams? Of course, don't tell me you're scared. HMPH, who would be scared? I will definitely be one of the people promoted to Chunin this time. Not necessarily, if you meet me halfway, you'll have to go home early. TCH. At night, at the Uchiha clan leader residence. In the courtyard, Izayoi and Sasuke Uchiha, who had finished training, were chatting while grilling fish. Sparks danced before his eyes, their vibrant colors reflecting on Sasuke Uchiha's face. Sasuke Uchiha, who was flipping the grilled fish, suddenly asked, Izayoi, when your squad was formed, did you introduce yourselves and talk about your dreams? Yeah, why? Then what's your dream? Sasuke Uchiha's gaze, separated by the fire, fixed on Izayoi, who was eating and grilling on the opposite side. Izayoi spat out a fish bone and smiled. My answer at the time was to become an excellent ninja. What's your real dream? I'm afraid you won't believe me if I say it, and you'll laugh at me instead. I won't, Sasuke Uchiha said with a serious expression. Izayoi stared at the burning fire and grinned. Rather than a dream, it's more like a goal. I want to get rid of the limitations of lifespan with Hinata and be together forever. Hearing this, Sasuke Uchiha's pupils contracted slightly. This whimsical idea is actually a goal, not an illusory and unrealistic dream. Is that really possible? Before Sasuke Uchiha could continue to speak, Izayoi knowingly asked, "What about you? What's your dream?" "Like you, rather than a dream, it's more like a goal." Sasuke Uchiha's eyes were filled with haze, and he said murderously, "I want to kill that man and avenge my parents and clan members." "At any cost?" Izayoi asked. "At any cost, even if it costs my life, even if I have to give my soul to the devil," Sasuke Uchiha said in a deep voice. Staring at Sasuke Uchiha's determined expression for a few seconds, Izayoi suddenly smiled. "Don't worry, you will succeed, and you won't have to give your soul to the devil. After all, you are my biggest source of points." Chapter 52, Izayoi and brother-in-law, Cool Hinata. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, many unfamiliar faces appeared on the streets of Konoha. Usually, there are many such unfamiliar faces, but they are all ordinary people from outside. But the unfamiliar faces that appeared now all wore forehead protectors engraved with various patterns, clearly ninjas from different villages. The villagers of Konoha were not alarmed by this, but rather excited. The sudden arrival of so many ninjas from other villages meant that the Chunin exams were about to begin again this year, and soon they would be able to enjoy the ninja duels. In particular, the shop owners had already begun to stockpile goods, preparing to make a quick buck when the time came. This is the Chunin exams, one of the most important events in any of the great ninja villages. July 1st, 3 p.m. 8th Squad gathered at the old place on time, holding their application forms and heading to the Ninja Academy. On the way, Shino Aburame said with his hands in his pockets, "Konoha is the host, our situation is somewhat passive. There should be many people investigating our information during this time, but we know nothing about them. It doesn't matter, information is always updated, and the information they've gathered is already outdated." Izayoi chuckled, "I believe you've all grown during this time." Hearing this, Hinata and Shino Aburame both smiled confidently. Soon, 8th Squad arrived at the Ninja Academy. After several months, stepping into the campus again, Izayoi and Hinata both looked a little dazed. Walking on the familiar road, their eyes seemed to travel through time, seeing the reflections of the past few years. From toddlers with chubby faces to children who had shed some of their childishness. At that time, Izayoi and Hinata were also walking shoulder to shoulder like this, inseparable. Thinking of this, Izayoi and Hinata both subconsciously looked at each other. After their eyes met, they seemed to guess what the other was thinking, and couldn't help but smile tacitly. Arriving at the familiar comprehensive building, 8th Squad had just stepped onto the first step when Shino Aburame and Hinata's expressions changed slightly. "This is Genjutsu." Shino Aburame formed an unformed seal with both hands, disrupting the flow of chakra in his body. Like him, so did Hinata. To be precise, it's a Genjutsu barrier. Izayoi smiled. It seems that the Chunin exams have already begun. Climbing to the second floor, the three saw the corridor filled with crowds, some with dazed expressions and confused faces. Some seemed to have realized something, and they were blocking the staircase leading to the third floor, but they were stopped by 2 Chunin responsible for guarding the entrance. "Hurry up and remove this Genjutsu barrier, we want to go to the third floor." 8th Squad hadn't even reached the staircase when they heard a familiar voice. "It's Sasuke." Hinata said the name of the person who spoke, but her eyes looked at a bystander in the crowd, and she said softly, "And Brother Neji, he's here to participate in the Chunin exams too." As if hearing Hinata's voice, Neji Hyuga, who was watching 7th Squad's performance, couldn't help but turn his head. Seeing that it was Hinata, he immediately walked over and bowed expressionlessly, "Lady Hinata." His etiquette was impeccable, but his tone lacked the slightest respect. Even as he lowered his head, a hint of hatred flashed in his eyes. "Neji ni-san, good luck with the exam," Hinata said softly. "Lady Hinata as well." Neji Hyuga quickly composed himself, straightened up, and nodded. "I hope to be able to fight you during the Chunin exams." After speaking, Neji Hyuga looked at Izayoi next to Hinata and said, "You are Izayoi. Any advice, top student of the previous class?" Izayoi smiled. "You are strong." Neji Hyuga sized up Izayoi, first giving such an evaluation, then said coldly, "But you should know your place. There is no hope for you and Lady Hinata. This is the difference in bloodline, and it is your destiny. Neji ni-san, be quiet." Before Izayoi could speak, a somewhat cold voice rang out. Hinata's eyes were no longer gentle, but sharply looking at Neji Hyuga, full of warning. Her entire aura had also undergone a tremendous change. "Excuse me, Lady Hinata." Neji Hyuga bowed in apology, then turned and left. Watching his cousin leave, Hinata returned to her ladylike demeanor, and said softly to Izayoi, "Izayoi-kun, Neji ni-san didn't mean it, please don't blame him." Placing a hand on Hinata's head, Izayoi patted Hinata's head and praised, "Hinata, you looked very cool just now. It's a pity I couldn't take out the camera in time." Indeed, the aura just now was full of oppression, Shino Aburame agreed, nodding. As expected, none of the top 3 in the class were simple. Perhaps this Chunin exams will allow us to see the full strength of Izayoi and Hinata, as well as Sasuke Uchiha. "No way, you're overpraising me." Hinata was immediately praised to the point of blushing and lowering her head, tapping her index fingers together. The contrast was extremely large. If you didn't know better, you would think she was the one with a dual personality, not Sakura Haruno. "Yo, Izayoi, Hinata, and that guy, you're here." At this moment, Naruto Uzumaki's voice entered their ears. The 7th squad, whose interlude had ended, was walking towards the 8th squad. "My name is Shino Aburame." Seeing that Naruto Uzumaki didn't say his name, Shino Aburame couldn't help but emphasize his presence. "Oh, Shino, hello." However, as always, Shino Aburame's emphasis was still fruitless. Naruto Uzumaki simply greeted him, then focused his gaze on Izayoi, grinning and saying, "Izayoi, you guys really came to participate in the Chunin exams too. This time, this great ni won't lose to you." "Oh." Izayoi was also intrigued and said, "Looking at your confident appearance, could it be that you learned ninjutsu from Jonin Kakashi? If that's the case, then the butterfly effect is really big." In the original work, to avoid the protagonist's strength from becoming unbalanced, Kakashi Hatake was made to look terrible. The copy ninja who knows thousands of ninjutsu techniques, is unwilling to teach even the lowest level C rank wind release to his teacher's son. This is even with Naruto Uzumaki already having learned to climb trees. But there's no helping it, Naruto Uzumaki has already mastered the multiple shadow clone technique, that enormous amount of chakra. Even if he only learns one C rank wind release, great breakthrough, his strength would be among the strongest of the genin, and the protagonist's inspirational story would not be able to continue. Hundreds and thousands of shadow clones, all using wind release, great breakthrough together, that power would definitely be even more outrageous than Madara Uchiha's majestic destroyer flame. "Hehe, you and Sasuke just wait and see." Naruto Uzumaki rubbed his nose and said triumphantly, "I will definitely shock you guys then." "Riddle speakers get out of Konoha." Izayoi retorted, but attracted strange gazes from Hinata, Shino Aburame, and Sasuke Uchiha. Their eyes seemed to be saying, "You have the nerve to talk about others." Chapter 53, Izayoi's Little Brother. After chatting for a few words in the corridor, the 8th squad and 7th squad went up to the 3rd floor together, submitted their applications, collected their seat numbers, and prepared to go downstairs to the teaching building. In the stairwell, Sasuke Uchiha asked Izayoi, "Izayoi, have you noticed those guys these past few days?" "Yeah." Izayoi nodded. He knew that Sasuke Uchiha was talking about the foreign village ninja who were secretly investigating them. As the top student of this year's class, and the last survivor of the Uchiha clan, both Izayoi and Sasuke Uchiha were key targets of attention. In the past few days, there have indeed been many people loitering outside Izayoi's house. It's just that they haven't gone too far, so Izayoi didn't care. "Have you encountered a guy carrying a gourd?" Sasuke Uchiha continued to ask. "No, is he strong?" "Ah, he's a strong enemy." As if recalling something, the corner of Sasuke Uchiha's mouth slightly curved upwards. "This year's Chunin exams are truly full of monsters, I can't wait to fight them." "Then you might get your wish soon," Izayoi said with a smile, as if he had noticed something. Just as they arrived at the back door of the comprehensive building's hall, a voice came from behind. "Please wait a moment." Hearing this voice, Sakura Haruno of the 7th squad immediately froze. "It's you again, you thick eyebrows, what do you want?" Naruto Uzumaki pointed at Lee Rock on the 2nd floor balcony and shouted loudly. Lee Rock jumped down from above, landed steadily, then struck a sage body starting stance, looked at Izayoi with a serious expression and said, "My name is Lee Rock, I want to challenge the number 1 of this year's rookies, please have a match with me, Izayoi." Challenge Izayoi. The 7th squad was slightly surprised. He seems to be Neji's teammate. Hinata frowned slightly, her eyes becoming sharp again, as if she had misunderstood something. The insects tell me that he has a faint bloody smell on him. Shino Aburame said calmly, his strength is not simple. Izayoi was also slightly surprised, he didn't expect Lee Rock to come and challenge him instead of Sasuke Uchiha. Thinking of the Eight Gates formation, a divine technique as famous as the Flying Thunder God technique in the Impure World reincarnation, Izayoi became a little interested. But after glancing in a certain direction, this interest immediately dissipated. If it was an unrestricted all-out battle, Izayoi would also like to experience the power of the Eight Gates formation. But now, Izayoi said to Sasuke Uchiha, Sasuke, you go. Me. Sasuke Uchiha was slightly stunned, then recalled the scene of Lee Rock blocking his and the gatekeeper Chunon's kick, and immediately ignited his fighting spirit, nodding, okay, I'll meet him. Seeing Sasuke Uchiha come out, Lee Rock couldn't help but frown, looking at Izayoi and asking, what do you mean by this? Before Izayoi could speak, Sasuke Uchiha made a dismissive gesture, pointing his thumb at himself, if you beat me, you can challenge Izayoi. If you can't even beat me, then there's no need to humiliate yourself. Lee Rock was slightly enlightened and said, I see, you are Izayoi's underling. Who is his underling? Sasuke Uchiha roared loudly, then his eyes turned into Scarlet Two-Tomo Sharingan, and said coldly, enough nonsense, let's begin. Those eyes. Staring at Sasuke Uchiha's eyes, Lee Rock was slightly stunned, and then said with a strong fighting spirit, so you are the last of the Uchiha clan, very well, then let me learn about the Sharingan of the Genius clan. After speaking, Lee Rock solemnly introduced himself, my name is Lee Rock, please give me your guidance. Enough nonsense, let's make a quick decision. Sasuke Uchiha rushed directly towards Lee Rock. The 7th squad and 8th squad leaned against the pillars in the hall, watching the battle. Looking at the figure magnified in his eyes, Lee Rock's body tensed. The moment Sasuke Uchiha threw a punch, Lee Rock's figure disappeared into thin air. Body flicker technique. No, it's different from the body flicker technique. Sasuke Uchiha, who missed with his punch, was slightly surprised. Immediately, he quickly released his perception. The next second, Sasuke Uchiha seemed to sense something, turned his head to look to the side, and at the same time raised his right hand, his forearm successfully blocking the kicked calf. Then Sasuke Uchiha's expression was a little distorted, his eyes filled with horror. What a powerful force could this guy be? It was these 2 seconds of distraction that allowed Lee Rock to retract his calf, and with incredible flexibility, somersaulted and landed in front of Sasuke Uchiha, supporting himself with his hands like a breakdancing teenager, a Thomas Flare, kicking from bottom to top towards Sasuke Uchiha's face. Sasuke Uchiha blocked with both hands, but was still kicked into the air by this charged kick. After landing, his hands were slightly numb. Looking at Lee Rock, who stood up again and assumed a starting stance, Sasuke Uchiha said, what you used just now was high-speed movement, and such strength, you are a Sage Body Ninja. That's right, I am a Sage Body Ninja. Lee Rock nodded honestly, and praised at the same time. It is said that the Sharingan can see through all ninjutsu, genjutsu, and Sage Body, it really lives up to its reputation. But what I didn't expect even more is that while you can see through my movements, your body can barely cope with my speed, you truly are worthy of being from that genius clan. Barely. Hey. The Two-Tomo Sharingan in Sasuke Uchiha's eyes rotated, and he smiled disdainfully, I'll return those words to you. After the words fell, Sasuke Uchiha's figure disappeared into thin air. Seeing this scene, Lee Rock's eyes widened instantly. The sound of air being torn apart rang in his ears. Lee Rock turned his head to look, and looking at the kicked calf, he subconsciously raised his arm to block. With a bang, the calf and forearm had just collided, and a figure somersaulted and landed, supporting himself with his hands in a Thomas Flare, kicking from below towards Lee Rock's face. Subconsciously blocking with both hands, Lee Rock was kicked into the air by this kick, flying 2 meters before landing. Looking at Sasuke Uchiha, who straightened his body again, imitating his previous movements and adopting his starting stance, Lee Rock's eyes trembled, you. The 7th squad by the pillar was already stunned. Am I seeing things? Naruto Uzumaki rubbed his eyes, disbelievingly saying, smelly Sasuke, did he just use the same move as bushy brows? So amazing, as expected of Sasuke-kun. Sakura Haruno clasped her hands together, looking infatuated. Is that the legendary Sharingan's copy ability? Shino Aburame also said with amazement, with just one glance, he copied the enemy's movements. No wonder the Uchiha clan's Sharingan is called an invincible Kekkei Genkei in one-on-one combat. Only Izayoi and Hinata remained unchanged, watching this scene with smiles. No one knew Sasuke Uchiha's strength better than them. If he was still so trash after being trained by Izayoi for so many years, Izayoi, as his teacher, would have committed seppuku long ago. Chapter 54, Might Guy's Perk, Stop Fighting. If that's all the strength you have, then I'm afraid you won't be able to challenge Izayoi. Looking at the shocked Lee Rock, Sasuke Uchiha seemed to be finally getting his moment, a triumphant expression on his face. Lee Rock slowly lowered his head, his forehead and eyes shadowed, silently unwinding the bandages on his hands, muttering, "Teacher Guy, I'm sorry, I may have to break this taboo, because..." Suddenly raising his head, Lee Rock's eyes were firm as he said, "I must prove myself to the person in front of me." In an instant, Lee Rock's entire aura changed. Just as the two were preparing to start a new round, with a poof, a cloud of white smoke appeared out of nowhere next to Lee Rock. When the white mist dissipated, a man wearing the same green jumpsuit as Lee Rock, but with a green vest over it, appeared in the hall riding a red turtle, striking an eye-searing pose, and laughing, "Really, you guys are so youthful. Even thicker eyebrows." Seeing this person, Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno instantly petrified. Sasuke Uchiha also instantly lost all fighting spirit, his mouth twitching. Even Hinata and Shino Aburame looked astonished, thinking that Lee Rock and Might Guy were father and son. Only Izayoi was focused, carefully examining Might Guy. Around Might Guy, two bubbles floated, both purple. Taijutsu Master purple. Cage Level Aptitude purple. Just like the larger version of Lee Rock, Might Guy's perks were also one level higher than Lee Rock's, both being double purple like Deidara. But Izayoi knew very well that Might Guy in his normal state was not a cage-level powerhouse. However, the system's assessment of his aptitude was still the purple cage-level aptitude, indicating that Might Guy's past level of strength was also included in the assessment. Might Guy, who opens the 7 gates, is indeed a leader among the cage level. The 8 gates formation, as he thought, is a divine skill that can defy fate. You are Kakashi and Kurenai's subordinates. How youthful. Just as Izayoi was pondering, Might Guy had finished scolding Lee Rock and came to the 7th squad and 8th squad, greeting them. The 7th squad was still staring at Might Guy's eyebrows, the corners of their mouths and eyes twitching. Izayoi politely said, "John and Guy." Seeing this, Hinata and Shino Aburame also politely said, "John and Guy. You know me too. Ha ha ha, that's right, after all, Kakashi and I are known as eternal rivals in the village." Might Guy stuck out his thumb and grinned. He's actually an elite Jonin like teacher Kakashi. No way. I can't see it at all. The 7th squad was shocked by Might Guy's words. But looking at his exaggerated movements and expressions, they couldn't help but question him. Although they had never seen Kakashi Hatake in action, they knew about Kakashi Hatake's achievements through Izayoi's words. "You're being too rude, Teacher Guy is telling the truth." Seeing the 7th squad's expressions, Lee Rock immediately shouted loudly. Jonin Guy is one of Konoha's trump cards, and also a famous taijutsu master in the shinobi world. He, Jonin Kakashi, and teacher Kurenai were all classmates, and indeed rivals. Izayoi spoke to vouch for Might Guy, then pointed to the clock hanging on the wall, and said, "Also, the exam time is almost here, we'll be late if we don't leave now." I almost forgot about the exam. Might Guy, who originally wanted to show off, couldn't help but pat Lee Rock's head and said with a smile, "Lee, you should be punished for breaking the rules. But now the situation is special, the punishment will wait until you finish the Chunin exams." "Yes, Teacher Guy." Lee Rock immediately stood at attention and shouted. Looking at this pair of oddball master and disciple, the 7th squad had become numb. "Well then, we'll take our leave first." Izayoi led the 8th squad to say goodbye politely, and walked out of the comprehensive building. The 7th squad followed closely behind. On the way to the teaching building, Naruto Uzumaki approached Sasuke Uchiha with a mischievous smile on his face. "Sasuke, when did you become Izayoi's little brother? Dead last, do you want to die?" Sasuke Uchiha, who originally wanted to show off to Izayoi how well he was using his lightning release chakra stimulation cells, immediately had a red vein pop up on his forehead, and looked at Naruto Uzumaki with a murderous gaze. Naruto Uzumaki was not afraid at all, but instead pointed forward and said, "Sasuke, go get him." Sasuke Uchiha instantly turned red with anger, clenched his fists and pounced on Naruto Uzumaki to beat him up. Naruto Uzumaki also fought back without showing any weakness. Then this pair of rivals staged a bizarre scene, punching each other while slowly moving forward. Stop fighting, you guys stop fighting. Sakura Haruno tried to mediate the fight from the side, with a worried expression. Her inner second personality, however, was loudly cheering for Sasuke Uchiha. Let's pick up the pace. Seeing the strange gazes cast by the surrounding examinees, Shino Aburame, whose presence was extremely low, rarely made a suggestion. Yeah, Izayoi and Hinata unanimously agreed, and silently quickened their pace. It's too embarrassing to walk with 3 idiots. Before long, the 7th squad and the 8th squad arrived outside the examination room of the teaching building. In the corridor outside the door, there were 3 figures sitting on a long chair. Teacher Kurenai, John and Kakashi. Izayoi led Hinata and Shino Aburame over, greeted Kurenai Yuhi and Kakashi Hatake, then glanced at Asuma Sarutobi next to Kurenai Yuhi, who was enduring his nicotine addiction and looked like he had lost the will to live. I'm glad to see you all here. Teacher Kurenai smiled slightly, then introduced Asuma Sarutobi next to her to the 8th squad. This is the Jonin instructor of the 10th squad. His name is Asuma Sarutobi, you can call him Asuma Jonin or Teacher Asuma. Asuma Jonin. Led by Izayoi, the 8th squad greeted Asuma Sarutobi. Hello. Asuma Sarutobi also smiled and said, I've heard Ino and Shikamaru mention you. The top student among this year's rookies, and 2 consistently in the top 5. Kurenai is really lucky. Asuma Jonin, you flatter me. Izayoi smiled modestly. On the other side, Kakashi Hatake had already explained to the 7th squad why they, the Jonin instructors, were here. Shino Aburame, who had been listening from the side, said calmly, in other words, if only 2 of us or just 1 of us came, we wouldn't be able to participate in the Chunin exams. That's right. Kurenai Yuhi nodded and smiled, remember what I told you during the self-introduction. Before any of you are promoted to Chunin, I will lead you on missions for a long time to come. Until one of you becomes a Chunin and is recognized by the guiding Jonin in the village, you will be able to lead your teammates on missions as a leader. If you don't get the approval of your teammates and don't have the courage to lead your teammates to complete the mission, then you are not qualified to be a leader. The Chunin exams have already begun from the moment you receive the application. Hearing this, Shino Aburame and Hinata were slightly enlightened. Looking at the unflinching Izayoi, Kurenai Yuhi got up and personally opened the door for the 8th squad, and smiled. Go in, good luck with the exam, I look forward to your good news. We won't let you down, Teacher Kurenai. The corner of Izayoi's mouth raised slightly, and he walked in with the confident Hinata and Shino Aburame. The 7th squad, who had come back to their senses, still followed closely behind. Chapter 55, Little Sister-in-Law's Growth, First Exam. The atmosphere outdoors and indoors was completely different. Although there were few people outside, 7th squad and 8th squad felt very warm, like a warm corridor in winter. But inside, despite the large number of people and the noise, Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno felt a bone-chilling cold as they stepped into the examination room. Remember the first website domain. As if noticing them, the examination room suddenly became much quieter, and countless gazes were cast over like needle tips, causing Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno, who had not encountered Zabuza Momochi and Haku in the Land of Waves arc, and whose demon brothers had been defeated by Sasuke Uchiha, to tense up, their eyes involuntarily revealing a hint of fear. Loser, are you trembling? At this moment, Sasuke Uchiha's voice came to their ears. Looking at Sasuke Uchiha's mocking face, Naruto Uzumaki didn't know why, but the fear in his heart instantly dissipated, and he shouted loudly, I'm not afraid of them. I'm just trembling with excitement. Izayoi ignored 7th squad and said to Hinata and Shino Aburame, let's go find our seats first. Okay. Hinata and Shino Aburame nodded, then looked for their seat numbers and walked away. Izayoi and Hinata's seat numbers were in the 3rd row in the middle, and the 2 happened to be deskmates. That's right, Izayoi's seat was originally Naruto Uzumaki's position. The seat number Naruto Uzumaki received was still next to Hinata, and then Izayoi exchanged seat numbers with him. Naruto Uzumaki naturally wouldn't refuse this small request. Interestingly, the seat number Izayoi received was the same as Sasuke Uchiha's. Now that the 2 have exchanged seat numbers, Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki have become deskmates. I wonder if Sasuke Uchiha will help Naruto Uzumaki cheat, and whether the scene of encouraging morale in the original work will still appear. But the butterfly effect has already appeared. The Konoha 11 did not gather at the podium, Yakushi Kabuto did not appear to curry favor, nor was there a small farce directed and acted by Yakushi Kabuto and the Sound Ninja. Taking advantage of the fact that the exam had not yet started, Izayoi and Hinata whispered to each other, just like they used to do at school. Of course, considering that there were strangers around, the two were talking about normal topics. Hanabi has already started learning 8 trigrams 32 palms. That's amazing, Izayoi said in surprise. Yes. Hinata nodded, her face filled with a proud smile. Father and the clan elders also said that Hanabi's gentle fist talent is higher than mine. When I was her age, I was still practicing pressure point strike, and my chakra wasn't as strong as hers. To this, Izayoi smiled without saying a word. Hanabi's talent was certainly high, but compared to Hinata, there was still a considerable gap. If Izayoi had obtained the Uzumaki Bloodline purple when Hinata was 5 years old, and awakened physical stamina healing, allowing Hinata to absorb chakra for 2 years, she would definitely be more amazing than Hanabi at the age of 7. Vast chakra is a hidden talent. However, Hanabi's growth was still beyond Izayoi's expectations. It seems that the Otsutsuki Bloodline red plus physical stamina healing has turned me into a great tonic. Having started learning 8 trigrams 32 palms at the age of 7, if Hanabi continues to absorb power until the Boruto era, to what extent would she defy fate? Evolve the Tenseigen. It feels unlikely. Because Izayoi gradually realized a very crucial thing. Hinata absorbing his chakra has already broken through the upper limit of the Hyuga clan's Byakugan, and it shouldn't be long before it levels up. This level of improvement, if placed on a blue perk, this perk would have been upgraded to a purple perk long ago. However, Hinata's Otsutsuki Bloodline is still just a blue perk. This means that Izayoi's chakra cannot upgrade Hinata's Otsutsuki Bloodline. And the Tenseigen is mainly based on the Otsutsuki Bloodline red. Even if the purity of the Byakugan is only at the gold level, it can still evolve into a Tenseigen. If Hinata and Hanabi simply improve their Byakugan, then the possibility of them awakening the Tenseigen in the future is very small. But what changes would occur if their Kekkei Genkei Byakugan were to be upgraded to a red perk? Like Keigaya Otsutsuki, can they release pressure and genjutsu? Or like the pure-blooded Otsutsuki clan, can they awaken special abilities? Izayoi doesn't know, but he is very much looking forward to the future of the two girls. Just as Izayoi and Hinata were chatting idly, the examinees arrived one after another. Boom boom boom. After an unknown amount of time, several overlapping sounds of balloons bursting interrupted Izayoi and Hinata's whispering. On the podium, several balls of white smoke appeared out of thin air. When the smoke dissipated, Ibiki Morino, the proctor of the first exam, made a dazzling appearance with several invigilators. Quiet. Ibiki Morino only let out a soft shout, and the entire examination room became so quiet that a pin could be heard dropping. Several genin, who had been putting on a fierce appearance earlier to scare the newly arrived examinees, held their breaths, not daring to breathe loudly. There was no other way. Ibiki Morino's appearance and his eyes were just too frightening. His face was full of knife scars, and his eyes were like those of a prison warden, as if the people in front of him were not examinees, but prisoners, who could be subjected to a round of torture at any time. Ibiki Morino, with his astonishing aura, didn't need to make an example of anyone. After briefly explaining the exam rules and announcing the 10th question at the end of the exam, he declared the first exam officially started. Sasuke, save me. Seeing that the first exam was the nightmare of his 6 years at the Ninja Academy, Naruto Uzumaki turned completely white, and he, who had never been convinced by Sasuke Uchiha, sent out a signal for help for the first time. Hearing this, Sasuke Uchiha couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth triumphantly. However, when the test papers were handed out, his expression also froze. What the heck? Is this kind of exam question something they taught in the Ninja Academy for 6 years? Could it be that he, the top student in cultural studies, is actually a fake? Almost subconsciously, Sasuke Uchiha raised his eyes to look at Izayoi and Hinata. He saw that the two of them had already started writing. At this moment, Sasuke Uchiha seemed to see a huge chasm slowly appearing between him and the two of them. They were not on the same level at all. But fortunately, his seat was in the back row. So, the corners of Sasuke Uchiha's mouth curved up again, and his black eyes had already turned into scarlet Tutomo Sharingan. His eyes were fixed on Izayoi, not even glancing at the test paper, but the pen in his hand was writing words on the blank paper. If you looked closely, you would find that the handwriting of these words was completely different from the name on the test paper. Just as Sasuke Uchiha was copying Izayoi's actions, other examinees who couldn't answer the questions also began to show their special abilities. Some used secret techniques, some used Kekkei Genkei, some used ninja tools, and some even resorted to ugly peeking. All kinds of cheating methods were seen by Ibiki Morino and several proctors. None of them spoke. Only when they saw unbearable cheating would the proctors write the number, -2, next to the person's seat number. The full score for the test paper was only 10 points. Being caught cheating would result in a deduction of 2 points, rather than immediate elimination. Only when someone had 10 points deducted would their entire team, including their teammates, be eliminated. Number 35 is eliminated, and this guy's 2 teammates can get lost too. In less than 5 minutes, the first person was eliminated. The first person to be eliminated naturally felt dissatisfied. But after being lectured by the proctor and seeing the gap between them and the Chunin, the psychological pressure on those cheaters suddenly increased. After all, they didn't know if their cheating would be discovered by the Chunin who were superior to them. If they were eliminated, their teammates would also be eliminated, so how would they explain it to their teammates? Only those with secret techniques and Kekkei Genkei were exceptions. Soon, 40 minutes of the exam time had passed. The previously packed test room had already emptied a large number of seats, and it was unknown how many teams had been eliminated. Izayoi and Hinata had also answered all the questions long ago and were chatting under the table using the secret hand gestures taught at the Ninja Academy, causing the proctors who noticed them to twitch their mouths slightly. After another 5 minutes, Ibiki Morino looked at the time on his pocket watch and shouted, "Everyone put down your pens, and we will now announce the 10th question." Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 56, Ino's Request for Guidance. Just like in the original story, Ibiki Morino presented the challenge or give up choice before announcing the 10th question. If they chose to challenge the 10th question, regardless of whether they answered the previous 9 questions correctly, they would be immediately disqualified if they answered the 10th question incorrectly, and they would be unable to participate in the Chunin exams for life. If they chose to give up, they would also be disqualified, but they could participate in the next Chunin exams. Hearing this rule, the examinees who had managed to fill out the test papers by cheating found it unacceptable. But under Ibiki Morino's pressure, they quickly quieted down and began to struggle. "I give up." Soon, an examinee closed their eyes and gritted their teeth, raising their hand. "I give up too, I'll just come again next time. I'm not going to gamble with my future." Quote. With someone taking the lead, examinees quickly raised their hands one after another, making excuses for themselves. Because if one person was eliminated, the whole team suffered. Each examinee who gave up meant 3 people leaving. Before long, the test room, which already had many empty seats, suddenly had a third fewer people. Resting his face on one hand and holding Hinata's small hand under the table with the other, Izayoi was curious about Naruto Uzumaki's expression at this time, wondering what that guy was feeling now. If Izayoi turned his head or activated his Tenseigen, he would find that Naruto Uzumaki was standing with his arms crossed, looking relaxed and confident. If you looked closely, you would find that his test paper was already filled with answers. Unlike the blank paper in the original story, Naruto, who became Sasuke Uchiha's deskmate, didn't need to do anything at all, just hold the pen, and Sasuke Uchiha would take care of the rest. Relying on the Uchiha clan's skill in manipulating shuriken, Sasuke Uchiha directly used steel wire to transform into a puppeteer, controlling Naruto Uzumaki to answer the questions. Naruto Uzumaki naturally didn't panic at all. Without Naruto Uzumaki's encouragement, the number of people eliminated in the first exam was naturally more than in the original story. But that was all. Many foreign examinees had discovered the loophole. Not being able to participate in the Chunin exams didn't mean they couldn't become Chunin. After all, they weren't Konoha ninjas. As long as they were good enough, the village's higher-ups would definitely promote them. Choosing to give up now meant they could still go to a major ninja village to participate in the Chunin exams next time, but it would disappoint the village's higher-ups. Therefore, many examinees withstood this wave of psychological pressure from Ibiki Morino. Seeing that time was about to run out, and seeing that no one chose to give up, and no one would choose to give up, Ibiki Morino, who had been wearing a tense face, suddenly revealed a smile and said, "Congratulations, you have all passed the first exam." Sounds of surprise and astonishment immediately echoed. The examinees who were originally prepared to challenge the 10th question were dumbfounded. Then, Many examinees who couldn't accept it questioned, what do you mean by this? To this, Ibiki Morino began to explain the trial of the first exam. It turned out that the first 9 questions were only testing the ninja's knowledge and ability to gather information, and the 10th question was aimed at the cohesion of the entire team. Even so, many examinees were still in a daze. Bang! Before they could recover, the sound of a kunai breaking through the window attracted their attention. Enko Mitarashi made a shining appearance in a flamboyant way that Naruto Uzumaki found very familiar, as if looking in a mirror. Many examinees who saw this scene were filled with black lines. However, the subsequent conversation between Enko Mitarashi and Ibiki Morino made all the examinees' expressions change slightly. Ibiki, what are you doing? How are there so many people left? This year's genin are more outstanding. TCH, it doesn't matter, anyway, in the next exam, I will reduce them by at least half. At the end of her speech, Enko Mitarashi scanned the audience like a hunter. Different from her flamboyant appearance, her sinister smile similar to Orochimaru, and the aura of a special jonin, made many examinees feel a chill in their hearts, and they no longer dared to underestimate this woman. Just like Ibiki Morino, those who can become proctors are indeed not ordinary people. Everyone must gather outside Konoha Training Ground 44 by 3 p.m. tomorrow, and those who are late will be considered to have abstained. After leaving these words, Enko Mitarashi left the test room, also announcing the end of the first exam. Yo, long time no see. 8th squad and 7th squad still left the test room together. However, before entering the corridor, Izayoi and others heard a familiar voice there. Turning their heads, they saw Shikamaru Nara walking over with Choji Akamichi and Ino Yamanaka, with his hands behind his head. Sasuke, long time no see. Ino Yamanaka enthusiastically wanted to pounce on Sasuke Uchiha, but the latter dodged with a sidestep. Ino pig, what do you want to do to Sasuke? Sakura Haruno said angrily. Billboard brow, is it any of your business? Do you want to fight? Ino Yamanaka retorted without showing weakness. Then, these former best friends, just like Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki's previous fight, directly bumped their foreheads against each other, ready to fight at any time. Long time no see, Shikamaru, Choji. Izayoi and others ignored the two women and greeted Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamichi. Izayoi teased, I thought a guy like you who hates trouble wouldn't participate in the Chunin exams. I really didn't want to participate, but unfortunately Asuma-sensei and my father both forced me to participate. Shikamaru Nara spread his hands and said, besides, Ino also wants to participate in the Chunin exams, presumably you all saw something was wrong from the application forms. Yeah, Izayoi nodded, and then the new version of the Konoha 11 walked out of the teaching building together. On the way, Ino Yamanaka, who had already finished bickering with Sakura Haruno, had somehow moved next to Hinata, looked at the white kimono on Hinata, and said with a smile, Hinata, this new outfit of yours is very beautiful, it suits your temperament very well. Thank you. Hinata smiled softly. That. Ino Yamanaka tugged at Hinata's sleeve a little embarrassedly, glanced at the boy's side, and then leaned to Hinata's ear, and asked in a low voice, Hinata, how did you do it? Sakura Haruno's ears twitched slightly, imperceptibly getting closer to the two girls. What? Hinata was a little confused. It's this, how did you do it? Ino Yamanaka first glanced at Hinata's amazing size, the conscience that even a loose kimono couldn't hide, and then looked at herself, although she couldn't be called an airport, but she couldn't be said to have the capital to be well endowed, and asked again, Hinata, what's your usual diet? Hinata's face instantly turned red, not knowing what she was thinking, she slowly lowered her head, and said in a low voice, I don't know, I just eat more than others. Eating a lot is enough. Ino Yamanaka believed it was true, but looked at Choji Akamichi not far away who was eating potato chips, and like Shino Aburame, quietly watching Shikamaru Nara and Izayoi chatting, and immediately looked depressed. It seems that this method is useless to me. Although among the Ino Shikacho, the Yamanaka clan is the pig, Ino Yamanaka doesn't want to really become a pig. Not only that, she also hates others calling her Ino pig very much. Chapter 57. Small group gathering, just in case. It's been so long, how about we get together? Let's have barbecue, it's on me. Walking out of the school, Izayoi extended an invitation to 7th squad and 10th squad. Upon hearing this, Choji Akamichi and Naruto Uzumaki's eyes lit up instantly. Sounds good, but let's split the bill. Shikamaru Nara nodded, but made a request. After all, he was well aware of how astonishing Choji Akamichi's appetite was. Even Asuma-sensei, an elite jonin, had more than once been forced to ask the owner for credit because of Choji Akamichi's eating. Shikamaru Nara also knew a bit about Izayoi's family situation. A commoner orphan, relying entirely on the village's pension in addition to his parents' inheritance. Even after being a genin for a few months, the money he earned probably wouldn't be enough for Choji Akamichi's barbecue meal. It's okay, just eat as much as you want, I still have quite a bit of savings. Izayoi, who had already become a super rich man in the shinobi world, revealed a smile that Naruto Uzumaki and Choji Akamichi admired immensely. Seeing this, Shikamaru Nara didn't say anything more, planning to treat him back later. At this moment, Sasuke Uchiha spoke up, ruining the atmosphere, I want to go back to train. You can train anytime, just consider today a relaxation for yourself. Izayoi reached out and patted Sasuke Uchiha's shoulder, his eyes filled with threat. Fine. Knowing what kind of beating he would receive next time if he refused Izayoi, Sasuke Uchiha crossed his arms, acting very tsundere, as if he was doing it reluctantly. Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka's eyes lit up, and then they began to imagine themselves sitting next to Sasuke Uchiha while eating. Immediately, as if they had guessed what the other was thinking, they couldn't help but glare at each other, their gazes converging into a line, sparks flying. Arriving at Konoha's largest barbecue restaurant, the Konoha 11 put 3 tables together and began their first barbecue gathering. Naruto Uzumaki, who had never eaten anything good before, competed with Choji Akamichi to see who could eat more barbecue. Ino Yamanaka and Sakura Haruno sat next to Sasuke Uchiha, constantly fawning over him, but this only made Sasuke Uchiha look disgusted. Shikamaru Nara and Shino Aburame sat together, drinking juice and chatting with Izayoi, talking about the examinees they had observed during the Chunin exams. While responding, Izayoi skillfully grilled meat for Hinata, placing it on her plate. Hinata silently buried her head in her food, looking very ladylike, but if you looked closely, you would find that her speed was no less than that of the ravenous Naruto Uzumaki and Choji Akamichi. Her appetite was even more astonishing than Naruto Uzumaki's, not at all inferior to Choji Akamichi. Gradually, Shikamaru Nara also noticed this, and his gaze towards Hinata was filled with surprise. There was actually someone whose appetite was not inferior to Choji. This young lady from a wealthy family was actually so amazing. As the gathering came to an end, Izayoi took out a camera from somewhere and had a shadow clone take a group photo of them. If Hiruzen Sarutobi saw this scene, he would definitely exclaim, this is the future of Konoha. This meal cost Izayoi tens of thousands of ryo. In the past, Izayoi would have felt like he was bleeding out. After all, he had only saved up over 300,000 in 6 years. But now, this amount of money wasn't even a drop in the bucket. And this meal also brought the classmates of 6 years closer together. They weren't in the same circles before, but now, they had faintly formed a small group. Only Izayoi knew how valuable this group really was. There were 2 saviors in Hokage, and the rest were either heirs to wealthy families, future leaders of Konoha Hospital and the intelligence department, or suppliers of soldier pills, etc. Izayoi only wanted to farm perks before and didn't have time to make friends. Now that his ninja aptitude had reached the 6 paths level, and considering that he would be living in Konoha in the future, Izayoi didn't mind expanding his network of contacts. The next day, 2 p.m. Ring ring ring. The sound of the alarm clock woke Hinata, who was taking a nap. Rubbing her eyes, Hinata first glanced at Izayoi, who was still fast asleep next to her, then gently got out of bed, tied her hair into a bun hairstyle, and went to the bathroom to wash up. Izayoi-kun, it's time to get up. After washing up, Hinata squeezed toothpaste for Izayoi before waking him up. What time is it? Izayoi mumbled. It's already 2 in the afternoon. There's still an hour, let me sleep a little longer. No can do, get up quickly. Hinata pulled back the quilt and gently pushed Izayoi's body, not letting him continue to sleep. Then give me a kiss, or I won't get up. Izayoi began to set conditions. Mwah. Hinata pouted her small mouth, her face slightly flushed, but she still leaned over and kissed Izayoi's forehead. Too light, I didn't feel it. Mew, kiss my cheek. Mew, and over here too. Izayoi pointed to the other side of his face, his eyes already open, a mischievous grin on his face. Izayoi-kun, do you know who you look like right now? Just like Hanabi. Hinata rolled her eyes at Izayoi, but her face still flushed red as she leaned in and pecked him lightly on the other side of his face. Then she pulled Izayoi up. Hanabi practically grew up before our eyes, what's so strange about her having a similar personality to me? Izayoi chuckled, rubbing Hinata's small face, and also kissed her flushed cheek. Go brush your teeth, your breath stinks. Hinata's face turned even redder, and then she pretended to be disgusted as she pushed Izayoi into the bathroom. While brushing his teeth, Izayoi said vaguely, Hinata, go open the drawer of the desk and help me get the red box inside. Okay. Hinata, who was just about to go out to pour milk for Izayoi, immediately nodded. Soon, Hinata came in with a box. She didn't leave, but stood aside, waiting for Izayoi to finish washing up. Soon, Izayoi rinsed his mouth and washed his face. After taking the handkerchief from Hinata and drying his face, Izayoi opened the box, which contained 2 lenses. This is, glasses? Hinata asked in surprise. No, these are colored contact lenses. Izayoi activated his Tenseigin and then put on the colored contact lenses. His pupils, which were originally sky blue with white flowing patterns around the irises, immediately returned to their original deep blue color. This was what Izayoi had bought in the city where the villa was located before returning to Konoha. Seeing Izayoi hide his Tenseigin, the clever Hinata seemed to realize something, and her expression became serious as she said, Izayoi-kun, is this Chunin exams dangerous? Having witnessed the power of repulsion and attraction, Hinata didn't think anyone among the genin would be Izayoi's opponent. But now, Izayoi was wearing colored contact lenses, obviously preparing to use repulsion and attraction, but not wanting others to discover his eye technique. What kind of enemy would be worth him treating so seriously? Hinata's mood was a little heavy. It's just in case, if things go smoothly it will be easy, if not, there might be a fierce battle. Izayoi looked at himself in the mirror, a meaningful smile on his face. Chapter 58. She possesses the same ability as me. 2:40 p.m. Izayoi and Hinata first went to the old place to meet up with Shino Aburame, and then arrived outside Konoha Training Ground 44. Konoha Training Ground 44, also known as the Death Forest, is one of the few training grounds in Konoha that is not open under special circumstances, and it is also one of Konoha's forbidden areas. The proctors had already set up sheds and tents outside, and there was also a sign for the assembly point. I hope readers will remember our domain name here, Taiwan Novel website. Although there were still 20 minutes before the start of the exam, 8th Squad was not the earliest examinees to arrive. In the open space, a large number of examinees were already standing. 3 people in a group, there were at least a dozen groups. In the next 10 minutes, more and more examinees arrived, and the open space became crowded. Yo, Izayoi, you guys are here so early. Long time no see, Izayoi-kun, Hinata. Long time no see, Minako. Since 8th Squad was standing on the periphery, 7th Squad and 10th Squad, who had just arrived, saw them at a glance. In addition, there was another team that also came over, it was 6th Squad where Kiba Inuzuka was. Have you heard? Among the 10 squads in our class, it seems that only the 12 of us have been recognized by the guidance Jonin, and the others have been eliminated, Minako said. Hinata said with a slight surprise, then did the other classmates go back to school to retake the course? 2 squads went back to school to retake the course, and the others were specially recruited by other departments. There are also a few classmates who seem to have been hit by something and chose to drop out of school, Minako sighed, becoming a formal ninja doesn't seem to be a good thing. We did a C-rank mission last month and were almost killed by the enemy's poisonous smoke, but fortunately Akamaru saved me. Cheer up, you will definitely become stronger, Hinata could only encourage. After all, 8th Squad is a sensor team, and her Byakugan has been improved to be able to see things within a radius of 20 kilometers, so she may not be able to experience this feeling in her life. I heard that the Death Forest is a forbidden area in Konoha. This exam is likely to be a wilderness survival, maybe there will be a contest between the examinees. Sasuke Uchiha provoked as always, if so, you have to be careful, don't be eliminated by me. Izayoi frowned slightly, pressed his finger against his nose, and leaned his upper body back slightly. Have you been drinking? No, I'm only 12 years old. Sasuke Uchiha shook his head, and seeing Izayoi's disgusted look, he almost couldn't help sniffing his clothes to see if there was really a smell of alcohol. But Izayoi's next words made him instantly red. Oh, I thought you were still talking in your sleep because you were hungover. PFF'd. Ha ha ha. Kiba Inuzuka and Naruto Uzumaki couldn't help laughing. HMPH, you just wait and see. Sasuke Uchiha folded his arms and showed an arrogant look again. Including Sasuke Uchiha, no one noticed that the current Sasuke Uchiha has undergone a lot of changes compared to the last 5 years of ninja school. It's like going back to the first grade. Looking at the little strong ones chatting and laughing, a large number of examinees immediately cast their gazes over. When they clearly saw the forehead protectors on them and their appearances, some examinees from small ninja villages had looks of apprehension in their eyes. After all, among these 12 people, 8 of them were not to be trifled with. Among them were the top student who suppressed the future successors of the major ninja clans. There were also the successors of the 3 major censor ninja clans, Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Kiba Inuzuka. As well as the orphan of the Uchiha clan, and the new generation of Inoshika Cho. They were either civilian geniuses, or possessors of Kekkei Genkei and secret techniques. Once they grew up, Konoha might be at their beck and call. Judging by their appearance, their relationship seemed very good. When they encountered them in the second exam, they had to run. A small number of examinees secretly thought to themselves. There were also many examinees who set their sights on Izayoi and the others, feeling that killing the successors of those ninja clans in Konoha's home ground was also a good thing. Among them, there was a greedy gaze fixed on the arrogant Sasuke Uchiha, almost unable to resist sticking out a long tongue. There was also a red-haired girl who was also sizing up Hinata and the other girls. Looking at Hinata, who was gorgeously dressed and had a noble temperament, as well as Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka, who looked like they were pampered, Karen's eyes were filled with envy. Were these the female genin of a large ninja village? At this moment, Karen seemed to have noticed something, and couldn't help but look in the direction she felt. She saw the white-robed boy standing next to the kimono girl, looking at her with a smile on his face. Looking at that handsome face and gentle smile, Karen, who was seeing such a handsome boy for the first time, immediately had cheeks that turned as red as her hair, and she averted her gaze evasively but soon couldn't help but secretly size up the boy again. Izayoi-kun, are you looking at that female grass ninja? Hinata caught this scene and couldn't help but ask. Yes. Izayoi nodded, admitting it readily, and said softly, she possesses the same ability as me. Hearing this, Hinata's expression changed slightly, and she stared at Izayoi's eyes without speaking. Not this one. Izayoi smiled, it's the one you and Hanabi often use. Hinata was slightly enlightened, and then re-examined Karen, who was secretly looking at Izayoi. When she saw the girl's eyes meet hers, she immediately retracted her gaze like a frightened rabbit, and dared not peek again, secretly guessing in her heart. Could she be a member of Izayoi-kun's clan? Grass Ninja Village seemed to be next to the Land of Fire. Could it be that Izayoi-kun's ancestors came from that land? All examinees, come over and line up to sign the death consent form. The second exam is about to begin. Time quickly came to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Since the little strong ones were all standing on the periphery of the team, the scene of Naruto Uzumaki provoking Anko Mitarashi, followed by the latter's lesson and the master-disciple reunion from the original work, did not occur. All the examinees stood in rows, queued up to sign the death consent form, and then, led by the team leader, entered the tent next to the shed to receive one of the Heaven and Earth scrolls, escorted by the proctor to their exclusive entrance. On the way, the proctor also told them the rules of the second exam. Just as Sasuke Uchiha had said, the second exam was a survival test in the wild, with a total examination time of 120 hours, which was 5 days. Within 5 days, they had to collect both the Heaven and Earth scrolls and reach the central tower of the Death Forest. If they exceeded the time limit or failed to collect both the Heaven and Earth scrolls, they would not be able to enter the central tower and would be directly eliminated. If they curiously opened the scroll, they would also be eliminated on the spot. After explaining the rules, the proctor stood guard in front of the iron gate of the team's exclusive entrance, waiting for the broadcast to sound. Byakugan open. Hinata formed an unformed seal with both hands, and veins popped out on both sides of her temples. A few seconds later, she said, our entrance is number 8. The teams at entrances 7 and 9 both have the Scroll of Earth. It's okay, there are 24 teams in this exam, with a total of 12 Scrolls of Heaven. Even if we don't take the initiative, prey will come to our door. Izayoi glanced at the scroll in his hand, which had the character, Earth, written on it. Hinata said with a solemn expression, in the team at entrance 7, one person's chakra is very powerful. Oh, who is he? Izayoi, who had not activated the Tenseigan, asked with interest. I don't know, but he's wearing a sand ninja forehead protector and carrying a gourd on his back, Hinata said, describing the other party's characteristics. Sasuke seemed to mention this person yesterday, Shino Aburame said calmly. Someone who can be remembered by Sasuke shouldn't be a simple character. Yes, a powerful guy. Izayoi smiled and nodded. Chapter 59, a genius whose 5 perks are not the limit. The Chunin selection exam's second stage officially begins. As the exam's start time arrived, Enko Mitarashi's voice instantly transmitted through the broadcast to all proctors and examinees. The proctors, who had been waiting at the gate, immediately took out their keys to open the iron gate and said to the examinees, "Enter." In an instant, the examinees who passed the first exam either transformed into afterimages and flew in, or clenched their fists and placed them behind their backs, rushing in with a ninja run, or slowly walked in. 8th squad was the last. Izayoi-kun, should we take the initiative? Hinata asked. No hurry, let's find someone first. Izayoi activated the Tenseigan, his gaze turning into God's perspective, first enveloping the entire death forest, and then, like surveillance, switching to individual teams. Soon, Karen and her 2 teammates' locations were exposed before Izayoi's eyes. Follow me. Izayoi flashed away. Hinata and Shino Aburame followed closely behind. Izayoi-kun, are you going to find that grass ninja girl? Hinata vaguely guessed what Izayoi was going to do. Yes, such talent cannot be wasted. Izayoi nodded. For this exam, Izayoi had made ample preparations, even wearing colored contact lenses. He wanted to change the fate of 2 people, one of whom was Karen. The black market trip made Izayoi feel the inconvenience of being a lone wolf. If he hadn't cleverly left Zabuza Momochi and Haku's life behind, Izayoi wouldn't have a human puppet even now. Haku was a good tool, but he was only loyal to Zabuza Momochi. Izayoi didn't trust Zabuza Momochi, so he wouldn't recruit such a rogue ninja. But from that time on, Izayoi had the idea of recruiting subordinates. Karen was one of his targets. In a situation where her clan was destroyed, her parents died early, and her inheritance was lost, she was still able to awaken all of the Uzumaki clan's unique abilities at the age of 16. Karen's talent, even placed in the Uzumaki clan's 1,000-year history, was among the best. Even if she hadn't defied fate yet, Karen's perks were more dazzling than many small fries. Uzumaki Bloodline, purple. Chakra Control, purple. Medical Genius, blue. Jonin Qualification, blue. Otsutsuki Bloodline, blue. Just like there are differences between red perks, even though Karen and Naruto Uzumaki both have purple bloodlines, the redhead's purity definitely surpasses the blonde's, even if this blonde has the chakra of his ancestors within him. Moreover, Izayoi is very sure that 5 perks are not Karen's limit. When he first started learning medical ninjutsu, he unlocked the Medical Genius blue perk. The Uzumaki clan inherently possesses a talent for sealing technique. As long as Karen starts learning sealing technique, she will definitely unlock the Sealing Genius blue talent like Izayoi did. At that time, Karen will be a genius with 6 perks. How could Izayoi possibly give such a talent to Orochimaru? Hinata and Shino Aburame naturally didn't know what Izayoi was thinking. However, Shino Aburame did hear something, and couldn't help but adjust his sunglasses, reminding him, Izayoi, are you planning to recruit ninjas from other ninja villages? That's illegal. Then, Shino, will you report me? Izayoi asked with a smile. Shino Aburame thought for a moment and said, if you don't keep her in Konoha, I won't. During this period of time together, Shino Aburame already regarded Izayoi and Hinata as companions. Izayoi also wouldn't ignore him like Naruto Uzumaki and the others, which made Shino Aburame feel very favorable towards him. In his heart, Izayoi and Hinata are his friends. He would not betray his friends. Provided that Izayoi doesn't do anything to betray the village. Imprisoning ninjas from other countries in Konoha is already a very serious diplomatic incident. As the heir to the Aburame clan, Shino Aburame cannot turn a blind eye. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Izayoi nodded with a smile. Seeing Izayoi agree so readily, Shino Aburame also stated, if there's anything you need help with, just let me know. You and Hinata just need to help me get rid of those 2 grass ninja. 8th squad, using full-speed body flicker technique, is rapidly closing the distance with Karen's team. At this time, Karen is being directed by her teammates to set up traps. Hurry up, if we get discovered, we'll leave you here. Ah, yes. What a useless thing, if your healing ability wasn't somewhat useful, I really wouldn't want to bring you along as a burden. I'm sorry. Karen, threatened and reprimanded by her teammates, didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. Instead, she set up traps while apologizing in a trembling voice, extremely humble. This is the status of an outsider. Although Karen grew up in the Grass Ninja Village, her mother was not from the village. Even if she could become a ninja, she would still be an outsider who couldn't gain the village's trust. Clearly, both Karen and her mother possessed extremely powerful physical stamina healing. However, the Grass Ninja Village only used this mother and daughter as healing packs. Anyone who was injured could come and absorb their chakra to recover, to the point where Karen's mother, despite inheriting the Uzumaki clan's powerful life force, passed away early. And Karen also became a malnourished girl with nearsightedness. What's even more ridiculous is that the Grass Ninja Village was very good at researching the ninjutsu of other countries, but they didn't know what red hair and physical stamina healing meant. Trigram Palm. Just as Karen was setting up a trap, she suddenly heard a delicate shout from a girl beside her. At the same time, there was a buzzing sound coming from far away. Before Karen could look up, a loud bang came from the direction of her companion. Turning her head to look, she saw one of her companions standing under a big tree, already stuck to the trunk like a hanging painting, with cracks all around his body and blood spurting from his mouth. Another companion hadn't even reacted before being submerged by countless insects falling from the sky. After letting out a scream, he fell to the ground and became silent. Karen was so frightened by this scene that she collapsed on the ground, her already pale face becoming even paler. Just then, she heard a gentle laugh beside her. "Yo, we meet again." Following the sound, she saw two boys and a girl standing in front of her. Looking at Izayoi standing in the middle, Karen's eyes widened behind her glasses. "It's you. Let me see your arm." Hinata crouched down, grabbed Karen's arm, and pulled up her sleeve. The next second, Hinata's eyes suddenly turned sharp. Karen's forearm was covered with different shaped teeth marks. Of course, this wasn't the reason for Hinata's anger. She and Hanabi absorb Izayoi's chakra every day, and in the past 2 years, they haven't even left a single tooth mark. This is because the chakra they absorb can't even keep up with Izayoi's recovery speed. But Karen only has 2 teammates, and there are at least several people's worth of teeth marks on her arm, and that's just one arm. This shows that her situation is the opposite of Izayoi's. Her recovery speed can't keep up with the speed at which her chakra is being absorbed. Trigram Palm. Hinata stood up and once again unleashed a shockwave from a distance, directly killing the dying grass ninja on the spot. From beginning to end, Hinata didn't say a word of concern to Karen. But her actions made Karen's eyes uncontrollably fill with mist, tears swirling. After her mother's death, after many years, she finally felt the feeling of being cared for again. And this feeling was given to her by the enemy. Chapter 60 Aburame Shino's Speculation, the First Subordinate. AI Model, Gemini 2.0 Flash. Taking advantage of Hinata's finishing blow, Izayoi also squatted down, but didn't ask Karen if she was okay. Instead, he rolled up his sleeve, extended his forearm to Karen, and said with a smile, "Take a bite, and the teeth marks on your hand will disappear." Hearing this, Karen, whose tears were already streaming down her face, widened her eyes again, her expression a mix of disbelief and intense joy as she looked at Izayoi, her voice trembling as she said, "Could it be that you also?" Quote. "Yes." Izayoi nodded, telling a benevolent lie. "Although our hair colors are different, our ancestors should be from the same clan. That's why I recognized your special abilities at a glance." Too good. Karen suddenly bit her lower lip, muttering to herself, choking with emotion. Then, her delicate shoulders began to tremble slightly. Tears fell like raindrops, wetting her glasses and dripping onto the ground. She was finally no longer an orphan. She still had clan members. At this moment, Karen wanted to cry out loud. But fearing that she would be disliked by her clan members, she could only sob quietly. Izayoi didn't say anything, but watched Karen vent her emotions with a smile. Hinata stood silently beside them. Shino Aburame, not wanting to disturb the reunion of clan members, went to the 2 corpses to search for their scrolls. At the same time, Shino Aburame was also making guesses in his mind. Red hair, special healing abilities, clan members. These keywords felt somewhat familiar, as if he had heard his father mention them before. Suddenly, Shino Aburame seemed to have thought of something, and his steps paused slightly. Then, he continued walking towards the 2 corpses, adjusting his sunglasses with his hand. He seemed to know why Izayoi possessed such massive chakra. It turned out that Izayoi possessed the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan. History books recorded that the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan were distant relatives. Before the founding of Konoha, the Uzumaki clan still resided on the Ninja continent, also located in the Land of Fire. After the founding of Konoha, the Uzumaki clan did not join Konoha, but instead left the Ninja continent and established Uzushiogakure on a certain island. Konoha and Uzushiogakure were also eternal allies. It seemed that Izayoi's ancestors were either members of the Uzumaki clan, or they had intermarried with members of the Uzumaki clan during the Warring States period before Konoha was established. The bloodline was diluted generation after generation, the surname and characteristics disappeared, and then awakened in Izayoi's generation after several generations. The more Shino Aburame thought about it, the more he felt that this possibility was extremely high. To be precise, only this explanation made sense. He seemed to understand why Izayoi wanted to recruit that girl. Kagura Shingen, Izayoi should have awakened the unique ability of the Uzumaki clan. Karen cried for several minutes before gradually stopping, as if realizing something. Wipe yourself off. Hinata bent down and offered a handkerchief. Thank you, Karen said softly, taking the handkerchief. After she wiped away her tears, Izayoi extended his forearm again, smiling as he said, take a bite, and your injuries will heal. No need, I'll be fine after resting for a while, Karen repeatedly shook her head. Facing this clan member in front of her, she was even more humble than she was in front of her two companions. Just like how Naruto Uzumaki, Haku, and Kimimaro Kagaya had just obtained love for these tragically orphaned children, the love of recognition, care, and acceptance was the light that pierced through the darkness. Those who had seen the light could no longer tolerate the darkness. Just as she didn't dare to cry loudly earlier, she didn't dare to bite Izayoi now. Karen was afraid that Izayoi, her clan member, would dislike her. Izayoi naturally saw Karen's fear and couldn't help but smile. Don't worry, my chakra is strong. Hurry up and recover your condition, otherwise I'm afraid you'll suddenly die, hurry up. At the end, Izayoi's tone became a little firmer. Yes. Startled, Karen quickly held Izayoi's forearm with both hands, then carefully looked at Izayoi, and then looked at Hinata next to Izayoi, who had a gentle smile and didn't seem displeased, and said softly, Then I'll have to trouble you. After saying that, Karen opened her mouth and gently bit Izayoi's forearm, not daring to use too much force at all. Use a little more force, it's okay, Izayoi comforted with a smile. Looking at Izayoi's encouraging gaze, Karen blinked her eyes and slowly increased the force a little. Immediately, Karen's eyes widened. Her body, which was originally extremely weak, was like drinking a sip of ice-cold purified water when she was about to die of thirst in the desert, or like a hungry ghost eating delicacies, or like returning from the outside to the fireplace in winter. A warm current surged in her body, sweeping through her entire body. The teeth marks on her arm disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her malnourished skin gradually gained a hint of rosiness. Her pale face had color. Even her nearsighted eyes became clearer. Completely not on the same level. Karen's expression was shocked. She had also used body healing to treat herself, and had also absorbed her mother's chakra when she was young. But whether it was her or her mother's chakra, it was completely incomparable to Izayoi's chakra. To give an example, if she wanted to save a seriously injured person now, she might need to exhaust all of her chakra, or even overdraft her vitality. And if Izayoi saved a seriously injured person, the consumption might only be a little more than the chakra from before. What quality of chakra was this? Izayoi didn't know what Karen was thinking, otherwise he would definitely smile slightly. This was the gold content of Noble Otsutsuki plus body healing. After replenishing Karen's blood, Izayoi stood up, extended his palm, and smiled. My clan member, would you like to follow me from now on? Can I? Karen said excitedly. Of course. Izayoi smiled and nodded, saying, but if that's the case, you can't be a ninja anymore, and I'm not sure if I can let you join Konoha in the future. I'm willing. Karen nodded repeatedly in excitement. Whether she could continue to be a ninja or not was completely unimportant to Karen. Her dream was not to be a ninja, but just to have a home. When her mother was still alive, her home was in Kusagakure. After her mother died, she no longer had a home. Now that she had found her clan members, she had a new family again. Very good, then you can leave with my shadow clone, he will take you to a safe place. Izayoi formed a hand seal with one hand, created a shadow clone, then pulled Karen up, patted her shoulder and said, after I finish the exam, I will come find you. Okay. Quote. Karen nodded repeatedly again, not afraid that Izayoi would sell her at all. After getting along for a few more days, if her affection rose to a certain level, I'm afraid that even if Izayoi sold Karen, Karen would still help him count the money. The orphans of this world are so loyal. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.